Here we go.
In 5, 4, 3.
Call to me, lands far away.
Elves have forests to protect.
We need to build a wall.
Dwarfs their mines. Men their fields of grain. But we Harfoots have each other.
For I must now wander this wandering day.
We're safe.
You have fought long enough, Galadriel.
No.
Put up your sword.
The enemy is still out there. The question now is where?
It is over.
Nothing is over! Nothing! You were the chosen one! It was said that you would destroy the Sith, not join them!
If you only knew the power of the dark side.
Darkness will march over the face of the earth. It will be the end, not just of our people, but all peoples.
Everyone! I am sorry, but their time has come.
The past is with us all. The past is dead. We either move forward or we die with it.
This could be the beginning of a new era.
Away I must wander this wandering day.
To him finally being lionized in the prime, and his prime. Fuck.
Do it!
Shit.
Just do it! Don't let your dreams change. Yesterday, you said tomorrow. So just do it! Make your dreams come true!
Luke went from being... Oh, no. Welcome, Slayer Nation. I have some great news for you today. I hope you're all doing great. Nope, that didn't work. One more.
You have failed me for the last time.
Welcome, Slayer Nation. I hope...
If you're tired of starting over, stop giving up.
That is eating away at what you love in order for it to shine. And one man's vision is... Sometimes you don't have to make things better for them to be great again. You merely have to Okay. Hollywood continues to slow boil the culture and crazy. Well, right now, Spider-Man actor Andrew Garfield has stepped up and he's fighting motherfucker.
I can't do it. Okay. We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. Fuck it.
And unbearded dwarves, but Prime didn't stop there. They stapled in intersectionality, individuality, biddiga-dig-bee, biddiga-dig-boo.
So it begins.
At my signal, unleash hell.
George the Giant Slayer.
Hello, everybody. I am back, and it's so great to see you. Welcome, Slayer Nation. You know, it really feels good to be here today. I don't know how many of you know. Some of you do. You've sent me emails and messages because I was in an accident a couple of weeks ago, and I got to tell you, I've never been so blessed to have the most amazing fellowship, community, and the best chat in the world. I mean, all of y'all are incredible. And I'm every day writing back to you because every single one of your messages, your blessings, saying you want your speedy wishes for recovery, they have been rocket fuel. And so we're going to have an amazing show for you today. Thank you to each and every one of you, from Olaf to Sherry to Marco to Thomas Smith to Martino. Hello, Martino, my friend. Eric K is here, Lord Thoth, the kings of the mods. We also have Fletcher Williams as our producer today, and a great lineup because there's a lot to cover. Remember a couple of weeks ago, we talked about Jerry Seinfeld. He had said, comedy is dead, and he wants to come back. Well, in the last 24 hours, he said, it's time for men to return, real men to return and take the center stage. And that's perfect timing because Kathleen Kennedy wants to neuter all the men in the world. The Acolyte is returning. That's pretty much her goal. We got Rings of Power, pulled another disgrace. Hollywood is in a meltdown. You got Benny Johnson released a clip of how Target wants to treat its customers. And Robert De Niro had his award strip. And this is after having a week where America was changed completely. So, are you ready? Let's get going. Our very first guest, you better buckle up for him. He's going to take us on a high-octane ride through the pop culture fast lane. He is the king of cutting commentary. He's sharp, he's savvy, and he never misses a beat when he's covering movies, the culture, gaming, or anime, or anything that floats his boat. Give a big Slayer Nation welcome to the master of mayhem himself, the one and only YellowFlash. Hello,
Yo.
How you doing?
I don't know how high octane I'll get. It's a pretty dry Sunday, but
dry Sunday. But it's always good. I'm glad you're here. Oh, I'm thrilled that you're here.
Yeah, I forgot to say yesterday when you're on, because you came on a little later in the stream, but I'm glad that you're doing good. And
thank you. I really appreciate that. No, I'm thrilled to be here. I'm glad to have you. Now, let's start bringing out everybody else. We have a true maestro of comedy and common sense, but he's not only that, he's a Renaissance man of the digital age. So put your hands together for the wit, wisdom, and wonder of Paul Chato.
Paul? Hello, I thought you were talking about Little Platoon, but I'll take it. I'll take it. I'm a modest Canadian.
You're a modest Canadian.
That's right, and a Canadian is in second place at the PGA today. So I'm rooting for Mackenzie Hughes. Go Mackenzie.
Go Mackenzie. We're talking about Little Platoon. This is the sharpshooter of cinematic critique, and I will say it every time. He's my good friend. He is a guy who has turned film analysis into a high art. Welcome to the Little Platoon.
Hello there.
Hello, my friend. How are you doing?
Glad to hear you're feeling better, and glad to see Paul out of the gulag, and nice to meet YellowFlash.
He was in the gulag. That's right.
I am still in the gulag. I don't think I'm out.
You haven't broken out?
No, it's okay. I'm
happy. Live from house arrest.
Yes.
You just have to keep. I know if you just keep appealing, that will work eventually.
I'll try.
For a couple of people that I know.
The only reason I would want to appeal successfully is to not get the little pisher. I don't want him to have the upper hand.
Of course. Well, let's bring out our last guest. This is a guy, you all know him. He is a narrative engineer. Any secret that Hollywood wants to hide, there's no one better to peel back the layers and uncover it. Say hello to the master from Midnight's Edge and Midnight's Edge After Dark, the unstoppable Tom. How you doing?
I didn't realize it was me. I heard peeling and I was thinking about like candy wrappers and stuff. But hello. Happy National AIDS Awareness Month, I guess.
No, I think it's Little Platoon Month.
Yes. This is the month when all the gays all across the world gather together and have parades to celebrate me.
Well, did you see they clashed in what was it, New York? The pro-Palestine.
Oh, I love it.
Clashed with the gay pride parade. I'm like, life is literally turned in,
That won't be that won't be the last one either, Tom.
And I was like, life has turned into like some twisted Seinfeld episode.
Are you serious? It was a clash of, well, we had that up here. We had Black Lives Matter stop our gay pride parade.
Are you kidding me?
No, and this was a few years ago, but I mean, before COVID, I was there, and I'm going, what's happening? Because I used to attend every single gay pride parade up here.
I saw one of the posters where they were holding up the counter, well, the pro-Palestine protest. I think one of them was holding some sort of rainbow sign, trying to be clever and meld the two messages together, which reads, "No pride in Palestine." I was like, yeah, but that's always been true.
But that's true.
So like, there's nothing new about that. The Palestinians don't particularly like the gay thing. I hear it's a really fun drop off a crane or off a building, but it's nothing new.
Those are my favorite protesters, the Queers for Palestine.
I've never
sharpest,
understood that. I've never
sharpest
understood.
knives in the spoon drawer.
They're not, because I've never understood that. I'm like, put your money where your mouth is.
That's like chicken for KFC.
It is. It's like, go over there. I will. It's like, okay, I'll put money towards it. You want to go over to Gaza and carry your pride flag? Call me, email me. We'll, try to get you.
The stats are, if you're woke, you have like an 80% chance to be an anti-Semite.
Right, but the problem is I saw these flags which said like gays for Palestine. I'm like, would you pull that flag out over there? No.
Well, it depends on where you probably stone you to death from. Read the card. Read the card.
Right.
So it's an old joke.
Oh, we have our last guest here. Okay, this is a guy who unleashes his spicy and sharp takes on Hollywood. He sends all the rats scurrying into the corner. Start getting those keyboards clacking for the Sultan of Truth and the Dynamo of Dialogue. Verbal Riot is here.
Whoa.
Wow, what an intro, man. Thanks.
How you doing?
George is a showman, man. Got it. He's got it.
It was great to meet you on Chris Gore's Film Thread. I've been watching your videos. I saw the one you did on Sports Illustrated about embracing body positivity. That just that was brilliant. I loved it. But
I got a lot of heat for that one.
You did. I saw, but it's crazy when
surprise, right?
Wow, surprise. But when you think about it, Sports Illustrated, right? I mean, we grew up looking at that, and
man, Christy Turlington, Claudia Schiffer. I mean, we had the best of the best, man. And to see what it's become, it's a travesty.
It is. And now, who are they bringing out? Didn't they bring out like Martha Stewart last year?
Yeah, they brought Martha Stewart, and this year they also had Gayle King. Gayle King, dude, Oprah's friend, Gayle King, on the cover of Sports Illustrated swimsuit. What are we doing here?
Was she wearing a thong?
I didn't look that hard.
No, it's just crazy.
Well, and they've had 2 trans individuals.
Yes, and they've had 2 guys on the cover as well.
I know Playboy tried that a few years ago, and they almost went bankrupt, and now they're going back to. I remember the daughter of Hugh Hefner saying, "We don't know what went wrong, but we think we're going to return to the original formula." I'm like,
yeah, Playboy, that was a shocker for me, man, because I was lucky enough to go to some of the parties at the mansion back in the day, and oh yeah, I got some stories to tell on that one. But yeah, to see what Playboy became, and obviously this all happened after Hef died, because that stuff wouldn't have happened under his watch.
No way. No.
Well, Hef was kept alive by 20 liters of Viagra every day, injected directly.
Yeah, as soon as his dick went down, he went into the dirt.
He was done.
He went into the dirt. He's like, no point to live. But y'all were talking about Seinfeld earlier, and I had mentioned this in the last 24 hours. Seinfeld had come out, and he gave this. Let me pull this up. He gave an interview
deal with Seinfeld.
Again, because I really have to respect the fact that he has been, taking it to the wokies. Let me tell me if you can hear this.
An agreed upon hierarchy, which I think is absolutely vaporized in today's moment. Okay. And I think that is why people lean on the horn and drive in the crazy way that they drive, because we have no sense of hierarchy. And as humans, we don't really feel comfortable like that. So that is part of what I think is, if you want to talk about nostalgia, that's part of what makes that moment attractive looking back. And the other thing is, as a man, can I say
you sure
that?
you are? Are you?
I've always wanted to be.
I didn't ask your pronouns before we
I've
began.
always wanted to be a real man. I never made it. But I really thought when I was in that era, again, it was JFK, it was Muhammad Ali, it was Sean Connery, Howard Cosell. You can go all the way down there. That's a real man. I want to be like that someday. Well, no, I never really grew up. I mean, you don't want to as a comedian because it's a childish pursuit. But I miss a dominant masculinity. Yeah, I get the toxic thing. I get it. But still, I like a real man.
So that
as someone who followed Jerry Seinfeld as a comedian for many years, I'll tell you that most of us in the comedy business were actually most impressed by the fact that all his girlfriends had huge tits.
Oh, I loved him.
And we're always twice as young as him.
Amazing. Like we were how did he get that? Like, that's just not true.
What's the deal?
But it's interesting. It's because the fact that he wants the return of real men. I mean, we want them as heroes again. You don't want to have all these beta male cucks who are being beaten up by 80-pound women. I look at it. I have a nephew who's like, he actually asked me, what was it 14 days ago? He had pulled me to the side and he was watching some movie. I'm trying to remember the name. It'll come to me. But he was like, do women beat up girls like that? He's like, is there something? He was actually wondering, and you're talking about a small child, is there something wrong with him? I was like, this is a horrible message. Well, think about it. It's not the beating them up, because obviously they're great. Like Haywire. I just watched Haywire with Gina Carano. It makes sense. Gina Carano, fighter. She did it right. But when you have kind of like the Terminator Genesis, the waifs or these stick figures who are taking on kind of like Arnold, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work in the brain. And now we have the Acolyte returning. So what do y'all think? You think it's the return of real men are coming back? I keep seeing little holes being poked in the woke bubble.
I think Hollywood needs to lose more money. They need to lose more money before we see the return of real men again.
Okay.
We have to get venues to grow a pair and stop apologizing to the woke crowd like they did at the Cabot Theater when Richard Dreyfuss was there. It's not so prevalent in the United States, although Platoon can bear me out on this. But stand-up is still quite sacrosanct at most stand-ups. Venues where you can say pretty much whatever you want. So that's the last line of defense in terms of anti-woke comedy. But in the UK, if you're not woke, then you don't get work.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Am I correct, Platoon, there? I mean, are very much uncontrolled.
It's more sort of like you have to sort of go to an underground circuit, which is, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing or a bad experience. A lot of, the better comics come up not through being fated by the establishment, but by really cutting their teeth on these low-level underground circuits. But it is very much the case that you might book a venue and the venue will find out that you've once made a joke about a trans person and the venue will cancel your show and you can't do it. There have been some comedians who have just been cancelled outright. Their entire tours have been taken down. They've had to sort of rely on the goodwill and the charity of their sort of fellow comedians to sort of help them out. And one of the best comics we've had and produced for a long time, Graham Linehan, of course, can't now produce a TV show because he's on the wrong side. Well, he's on the right side and has been proven right over and over again, thanks to the cast report, that he still is not allowed to do any mainstream work anymore, which I think is a real shame because it means that sitcoms on televisions are so much worse.
Wow.
How are they continuing? That's something that I wasn't planning on asking, but I wanted to know, Platoon, how are they continuing to push Doctor Who with its ratings continuing to crash, where the audience has turned against it? I really want to know. I mean, what's the mindset when the audience says, no, this is not what I want?
I think it's too late now at this point. They made the series, they got lots of money, they got lots of extra money from Disney, put it all into production. Disney, of course, is not going to look at a script that features pronouns for Furbies and say that that's a bad thing. In fact, they quite like that sort of thing. So they commissioned it. They said, yes, Russell T Davies is no longer particularly interested in storytelling. I actually think he used to be a very good storyteller. Quite like some of the earlier stuff that he did. He's evidently come back with a mind to something else entirely, not at all interested in furthering the story he used to love. Now it's just about, how many of my pet political issues can I push into popular children's entertainment? And how much more childish can I make it while I do so? But it was too late at that point. Even if the ratings completely did die, we're stuck with the show until the end of this series, at least. After that, they might reevaluate it if it's doing as badly as some people say.
Yeah, because I started with Doctor Who. I don't know how many of y'all have watched Doctor Who. I started on number 4 when I was a kid. Like 4 was my Doctor, and then I went from there. And I didn't watch 1 through 3.
Yeah, Baker was also my first.
Okay.
Well, I tried to get into it. And
I'm sorry, Colin Baker, not Tom. Colin Baker was my first.
That was your first. That's
yeah. I had the Angry Doctor as my first. So.
I just wanted to comment on the loss of masculinity. I think a big problem, or the part of it is, especially as a society, besides the obvious, right? Like the woke nonsense we've been dealing with, is we don't have any really strong male athletes to look up to anymore. We don't have any strong male movie stars. I mean, like look back at the day, like when we were kids, or even when Paul was a kid back in the early 1800s.
Bruce Jenner. We had Bruce Jenner.
He had Abraham Lincoln and stuff. Yeah, that's what we had, Bruce Jenner. Now they got Bruce Jenner.
I know, but we don't have the Muhammad Ali's.
Yeah, exactly. We don't have a Muhammad Ali. We don't have an Arnold Schwarzenegger. We don't have a Sylvester Stallone. We don't have a Clint Eastwood. We don't have a John Wayne. We don't have any of these guys to look up to. What's the closest we got? Ryan Reynolds and Chris Pratt?
No, I mean, we still have guys like Jason Statham and guys like that, but
yeah, he's the rare exception though. But he's what, like 60 years old, right?
No, I know,
like,
I get it.
We got Vinnie Jones. He's still around once in a while. He was in The Gentleman. I just saw.
Yeah, but nobody on the level like that, right? Like, I mean, we used to hold.
I think some of the UFC guys,
yeah,
can move up there because that's probably, I think, one of the most popular sports we have now. And the thing is, though, that a lot of those people get villainized by the media because they don't have the views that they're looking for.
Wait,
right, which goes.
Sorry, go ahead, Tom.
No, I was just going to say, which goes to what Paul was saying about the whole thing with Richard Dreyfuss, which, I saw the reports coming out about that, and I just did a little digging, asked a few people to send me in, what happened if they were there. We cross-referenced it with a few things to see if they were real, and it was legit. As best as we can tell, all the papers are lying because they're using the Hollywood Reporter's report on it, who did zero research. None. And if you did any research, you would see that these people that are bitching and pissing and moaning about it were the 20 or 30 maybe that walked out or weren't even probably there because they're just making shit up. And that's kind of where we're at now with this whole thing. We believe one side, we don't believe another. You're put down if you're even trying to be masculine whatsoever. If you have a difference of opinion, whether it's, something crazy like, 8-year-olds shouldn't be deciding those type of things to do with their body, which is what Richard said and blew up into this big thing, right? Nothing that we haven't said every other day of the week, right?
We'll share that. No. I want you to pick that up because you went into something that Paul had mentioned about Dreyfuss. I don't know if the audience knows. Share a little bit of that background so people know where we're at.
Well, really short, because we did a really extensive report on it, and Paul gave us a glowing review on it, and I want to thank him for that because he said, why is Midnight's Edge the only people doing real journalism? And that was what I think he was getting at, because if you just look at it, you can see it's blatant, as clear as day. And I just put the biggest papers in there as far as examples, and that alone took up what? You just flat, boom, 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 like 20 of them right there. And the thing is, they're running with the story that he was at the Cabot Theater for a Jaws screening.
Give everyone a synopsis because we're kind of catching it in the middle.
That's kind of what I was doing right now. Like he was at the Cabot Theater doing a Jaws screening with a Q&A session beforehand, which lasted about an hour and a half. And during the session, he come out in a dress. The audience was into it. He took the dress off. They started the Q&A. At one point, they got to a question about Barbra Streisand, and he had worked with her on Nuts. Now, according to the Wokey Wokes reports of it, he was being a misogynistic pig who was saying that women should stay in their lane and women shouldn't have an opinion and all this kind of stuff, and we should go back to when women were just in the kitchens. Now, the two reports that we had that lined up from Paul Christie, who is a self-proclaimed Jaws fan who did an interview with a podcast, and the person that reached out to us, their two stories line up exactly. And what they said basically was that the story was that Barbara was feeling like she could do what she wanted and was telling the director how to direct. And Paul specifically said that he got more of the vibe that the story was saying that, he was saying that maybe she should just shut the hell up and let the director direct. Because as everybody knows, Barbra Streisand is notoriously known as a freaking pain in the ass to deal with, right? Like, so
case.
I can imagine that was the point of the story. So I guess some lady in the audience got all upset about it and said, "Excuse me," or something like that. And then from there, the interviewer jumped right into a Me Too question and asked, "How do you feel about the Me Too movement?" Well, for those who don't know, Richard was Me Too'd out of Hollywood over a stupid accusation almost a decade ago now. And that's why he hasn't been in movies. And so he basically said, "I don't agree with the modern movement. In fact, I don't think 8-year-olds should be deciding what gender they should be." And I guess at that point is when about 20, 30 people left, not 100 or more from what the reports were saying. And even then, somebody just said, "Good night, Grandpa," and that was it. Right. And then later on, he was talking about a movie that had to do with Madoff. And he said, "I was talking to a Republican friend," and that same chick from before piped up and said, "Who's your stupid Republican friend?" Because everybody noticed that she didn't leave with the crowd.
Okay.
Right. And somebody else just finally said, "Shut the fuck up to her. It's none of your business." And that was it. And then this rogue mama person who was supposedly there, which I think might be one and the same as the person we're just talking about. I don't know for sure. She went out online and was going off about it on Facebook. And this is the story that THR picked up. And in her report, he went off on another homophobic, transphobic diatribe at the end. But guess what? For her, that sucks because there's video of that and he didn't.
He was just quoting me.
Yeah, he was Paul the whole time. No, he just said, I have this book coming out because that was what the end of the thing was. They're promoting the book. And he goes, 50 years ago, we took civics out of schools. And ever since then, this country's gone to hell and we forgot who we are. That's all he said.
Not wrong.
And everybody cheered and he left. So this bitch was making that part up. It's like, okay, so what else did she make up? And that's kind of where I started doing the digging. I got the story and then I found the other story. It didn't take me that long to uncover it, but basically they're trying now to go on this huge campaign to cancel him because of what he said in a theater where he took literally less than 5 minutes out of a 60 to 90 minute Q&A to talk about his politics. Yet people are out online freaking out and going, go Adele, because somebody said shut the hell up when she was going on about Pride Month in her recent concert. I'm like, well, tit for tat. Maybe we should try and have her canceled too then.
Yeah, nobody outside of their little Starbucks queue line agrees with them on this kid issue. It's a wild world that we live in when just saying leave kids alone is so fucking controversial.
You pay for the tickets to go see him talk about Jaws. You're not there to hear about his political views. That's fair. But like I just said, nobody says dick about it when some lefty comes out and takes an hour and goes off about trans rights and shit, right?
Oh, they get a standing ovation.
Exactly, Paul.
Stunning
It's
embrace.
bullshit. Just because he took, and he was actually, as far as I was concerned, set up by that Me Too question. Because
Well, also, just to piggyback on the Me Too thing, I mean, the thing no one ever talks about, and the thing that bugs the shit out of me is Me Too was just a power grab. It was the
100%.
ultimate power grab. And I say that because, look, I get it. Harvey Weinstein, complete dick, scumbag. I get it, right? I get it. But myself, I remember this was back in 2009, I think. I was at a party in Studio City. It was some industry party. I don't even remember. I got invited by a friend. We go there. Harvey Weinstein is there. I go to the bar to order my whiskey, and I'm talking to the guy. And seemed like a nice guy. I didn't know him at all. Bought the whole bar drinks that night, and so I thought he was a decent guy at the time, right? But here's the thing: as I'm there, right, I go back to my group of friends. I look at all the women who were there. They were eyeing the hell out of him. They were lining up to talk to Harvey Weinstein. So all of this, he took advantage of me. Sure, I'm sure he abused his power in some way, but they were also willing participants in this, right? Like they wanted to get with
Casting
Harvey.
couch.
A lot of them did, yes, because they knew it would help their career.
Like Leslie Headland.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. They knew it would help their career. And so when they saw the opportunity, this Me Too thing happened. And now all of a sudden you have all these women who are, heads of studios and doing all these things.
Yeah, like
it was
Leslie
a power
Headland.
grab.
Leslie Headland. You're exactly right. How many years did people know? Come on. People
She
sweat-
was
they
his
knew. Come
personal
on, man.
assistant.
Since the
She
beginning.
knew for sure. Yeah, she's got a notebook filled with details of the shit this man has done. But
That's the only reason.
I
imagine
speculated she
if
would be one of
Leslie
the
was a
people who might
man.
have even set these appointments up.
If Leslie Headland was a dude, the media would be saying, "Oh, well,
She is.
Well, that's debatable. No, but you're 100% right, YellowFlash, because what did they do to Ben Affleck, Robert Rodriguez, Kevin Smith, everybody who worked with Weinstein? Well, why didn't you say something? Well, why didn't you say something? Well, why didn't you say something? My bigger thing would be, why didn't the women say something? Why didn't the women like Leslie Headland, who are supposed to be a lesbian, an ally to women? Why wasn't she out there going, this guy is using his power to basically get sex out of these women? Why wasn't she one of the first?
And by the way,
people
didn't
out
Meryl
there
Streep call him a
saying
god?
Yeah.
that? Yeah. She even wrote a play about
She
him.
also gave what's his face a bunch of standing ovations. Shit.
So did Hillary Clinton. So did
that dude that raped a girl and ran to another country.
Oh,
Polanski.
Polanski.
Yeah. Yeah, Meryl Streep was giving him a standing ovation.
Oh, Hollywood
during,
has been trying to get Polanski back in the U.S. since then.
Yeah.
And they've been trying to, shame the victim ever since. And again, we don't know everything that happened, but it doesn't matter because of the age of the victim, right? So at this point, she's even said, I don't give a shit. I'm like 50 years old. I don't care anymore, basically, in so many words. But at this point, it's like, it's not that. It's the principle. It's the fact that these degenerates want him to come back so badly. It's like
every day I tell my wife, I swear to God, I didn't know she was 16.
Well, you know what?
It's every day. I'm sorry. It's the hell I'm in.
Well, y'all were talking about shaming the victim. I was going to get to this later, but I think this is a perfect, it's a perfect segue. It's about gaming for a second. The head of Valorant Studios. Did any of y'all see that? Okay, hold on.
No, actually, I missed it. Can you?
Yeah. Okay. So the head of Valorant Studios announced that they are putting out. They're going to modify their games and their online platform to modify player behavior. And here's a little clip because she's talking about harassment. We've said before, Platoon, Tom, Chado, YellowFlash on his Saturday night show on Flashcast, we've talked about it where, if you don't like something that someone says, you mute them, delete them, ignore them, whatever. Well, here's her response to that and how they want to change everything up.
But I also want to make sure that I say this out loud. We have no room for these types of behavior in our game or in our community. Valorant is a team game. It's better played as a team. The strats are better. All of it's better. When you tell someone to just mute comms to avoid harassment, you are essentially putting the harassed person in a position to not communicate, to compromise how they want to play the game to accommodate you.
They should. It's a multiplayer game. It's not about them.
Right. That's
the team.
Correct.
Jesus Christ, man.
Don't play the game.
What do you know how many times I've been called the N-word by 13-year-olds, man, when I play Overwatch? It's just what happens when you're gaming, man. They call me the N-word, I tell them to go fuck their moms, and then I move on to the next game. I don't understand this.
I don't understand why no one has commented on the fact that you should get a new stylist.
That's a good point, Paul.
See, only I.
You would notice that.
That's misogynistic. It's very misogynistic.
Are you being toxic, Paul? No, he's being a real man. He's like, get a new stylist, lady. You get a lifter for the breast. Do something.
Oh, there's that kind. I'm not talking about that. She could use bigger boobs.
Right, but the problem is, think about that. They want to modify people's behavior.
But the thing is, it's an algorithm is not going to be able to help her on that in that regard. And also, it's up to the person who has chosen to be offended is the one who's going to be taking offense and punching the ticket. Mm-hmm. So someone could say something very benign to them, like, "Hey, your mother's a cat," and then to that person who's got cat phobia or something, posts a complaint that this person offended me. That will go down on their chart of offense. So there's no science really behind anything that they're doing, because it doesn't take into account the severity of the remark. It's stupid.
Right. Well, even the science they do have, most of it doesn't even replicate, so it's worthless. A lot of the shit that they use for this is worthless because none of it will replicate. All that social science bullshit on video games.
But that's what I wanted to ask you, Flash. How would they actually do that? Because she didn't explain how they would do that. I was watching.
She didn't give examples.
You know what she's responding to is that there was that gamer girl. I don't remember who she was, but some dude was like, "I'm going to rape you." And she started pulling on the waterworks. It was I think it was a couple weeks ago, but that is obviously a response to that woman.
Dude,
can't
I get threatened to
remember-
get raped when I play video games. Come on.
It's me too. I've been threatened to be raped a few times. Even in my comments, people want to rape me. It's it's just the way it is.
They like that yellow.
I know.
They can't stand it. No, here we go. Okay, so now we're going to come back around. I want, if the mods can, Eric K, what we were talking about earlier about Richard Dreyfuss before we move forward. Eric K, Lord Thoth, if y'all can, will you put the link in the chat for Midnight's Edge video on that? Because I think it's
all I know,
video.
going back to what Flash was saying, is there's a lot of butthurt people who know how to take it up the ass. You'd think anybody could do that. Wouldn't get so easily butthurt. Just saying.
Now we have talking about, because we went from Seinfeld, that's where we started, about bringing real men back and how Kathleen Kennedy is trying to neuter him. And we can see the flow where Richard Dreyfuss is now once again trying to be canceled. We have the gaming industry is trying to modify behavior. And again, we have the Acolyte coming out this week. So turn off your
so
Wi-Fi.
excited.
Yeah, you are. I think you're what? One of the 5?
Yeah.
But the thing is I was researching this, right? And so I was following the links that the article was given, because they're basically doing that old thing where if you hate Star Wars, and you're not a real Star Wars fan, if you hate the diversity, equity, inclusion, yada, 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 yada. And now
it's gaslighting bullshit.
It is. But what I wanted to share with you, what I found interesting was, do you know what the basis of this series is on? Like $185 million was spent on it for one reason. It appears to me this way. And I'm going to bring this up. It is basically a $185 million email to Leslie Headland's sister saying, bitch, I was right. That's it. That's literally it. She describes it in the New York Times article where she has a bad relationship with her sister. She had written a what do you call it before you write a script? What's that term?
Treatment.
A treatment. She had written up a treatment. She had shared it with Kathleen Kennedy. Oh, this is beautiful. And she turns around and she shares here. Where is it? I have a very strained relationship with my youngest sister. And I feel like one of the reasons is strained is that we both see each other as the bad guy, Headland said. And if I was going to tell a story about bad guys, it seemed to me that the place to start should be a familiar relationship where one person is adamantly convinced of her correctness and the other person is adamantly convinced of her correctness. We don't speak Headland Allen, but I think this will be a surprise to her. So, like I said, this is a $185 million bitch, I was right email. That's the series in a nutshell.
And in her interview, she never really gives us an example of what it was that caused them to be estranged.
Right.
Right now, I'm siding with her sister. Whatever it is,
actually.
Whatever, my sympathy is with her. Like, she's right. I want to
Maybe.
know what it is.
Well, you're probably right. But what I find is hilarious is in the same interview, she talks about how when she first brought her story to Kathy, Kathy's like, well, this is a great Star Wars story. Now make it more of a you story.
Yes.
Yeah, make it a Leslie Headland show.
And the funny thing is the first 2 or so episodes, like people that are reviewing, most people are saying they're not that bad. It's when it gets to like the 3rd or 4th episode when the
pronouns kick in.
Yeah. So I'm like sitting here going, and then I didn't know this about Leslie too, and I'm not trying to give her any credit, but I guess she's had a Ralph McQuarrie Princess Leia tattoo for years. So I'm like, okay, maybe she was a Star Wars fan or is a Star Wars fan. Maybe when she said, I do like all the Star Wars, she wasn't really kidding. So is that then gives us an exact point of reference here again, like with the whole Bo DeMayo thing is like, yeah, they hired him because he was a gay black man. But as soon as they realized he was an actual fan, they shit canned him, right? Because he wouldn't conform to their crap. I'm not saying Leslie's the same. Leslie conformed, right? Because of course, she was like, as soon as she said, well, make it about you, she's like, well, now I can just do whatever I want and make it about my sister.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Her first name starts with lesbian letters. I mean, it's like perfect.
Right? Lesbian Headland.
Yeah.
I mean, it could also be a situation too, man, where, and I'm starting to see this more and more, where I think there are genuine writers out there who can tell good stories. I think the problem is once you bring it to Disney, you are now theirs, right? Like you have to write what they tell you to write. So no matter how good of a writer you are, it's not going to matter.
I think that's clear.
Yeah,
it's not going to matter. It's you have to do what they say. So maybe Leslie and even Alan Ing, who they're going to a film that's going to talk about it Tuesday. even Alan Ng tweeted that he already thinks Leslie Headland is a better writer than Filoni.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
Well, and that goes with what I was just saying, right?
Which is hard to believe if you think about his early work, where he looked like he was dedicated to Filoni. But I know I saw Alan Ng was saying it that.
So the show's good?
No, he's saying that, no, not at all. He's just
but
saying
they're saying
how,
it's better written than the other shit that we've gotten.
Yeah.
That is
a really
the
low
lowest
bar,
of low
man.
bars. Yeah, exactly. Like you can't not clear that bar. It's so low. You could roll a wheelchair over that bar. I mean, it's
so low,
impossible
no
not to
pun
be better
intended.
written than
I
Ahsoka.
think what he was saying is that, you know, sometimes good writing creeps in, but it's still.
Well, that's what I was speculating, is maybe she is actually a Star Wars fan. She's worked in the business for a while now.
Some of the dumbest things I've ever seen in a entertainment production were in the Obi-Wan show. Like when they stopped at that gate and they could just walk around it, but they still needed to turn it off. Like what?
And then
what
Vader follows Obi-Wan down to the
Multiple
planet and then
people
asks
were
him
okay
if
with
he's come to destroy him. And it's such an incompetent show. Like, I don't necessarily mind the
He's here to hang
idea
out.
of making it a more personal story. I mean, they always say good advice for writers: write what you know. Family drama is at the core of a huge number of very successful stories, and it's evidently something Leslie Headland is very familiar with. Some of the old Star Wars Expanded Universe stuff focuses very much on family dramas and fallouts between siblings and all the rest of that stuff. Like, none of that's antithetical to creating a good Star Wars show, and that might even be the strongest aspect of The Acolyte when it comes out. That it's what Headland interprets when she's told, now make it more of a you story. And it's how much of that actually is true and how much of it is now go and insert these particular points because it's a Disney production and we need to stress them. Like, you never really know exactly how much of this is going to be hers, at least until we see it, and then we can sort of make a more qualified judgment.
Right, but you can tell here what kind of show it is, and then when we put this together with Alan Ng's commentary, because he's seen the first 4 episodes, so he basically says it starts off interesting, I think if it's correct, verbal, and then by episode 3 it starts basically going down, and then episode 4 the pronouns are whipped out and he's crying. But here in the article, it's something that struck me because it sounded almost like a Disney press release. And I looked back, I pulled out my old trunk with the Star Wars articles when I was a kid, and they wouldn't describe the way it's described here. Listen to it, where it says, Amanda Sternberg stars as a dreadlocked warrior who has complicated relationship with a Jedi Master played by Lee Jung-jae from Squid Game. Okay, first part, generic, no problem. In his first English-speaking role. Then it goes, Jodie Turner-Smith, Queen and Slim, plays the lesbian leader of a regal coven of witches, while the Filipino-Canadian actor Manny Jacinto appears as a shadowy traitor.
Why does it matter that she's lesbian?
Yes, that's my point. Why doesn't it say she plays the shadow traitor? That's what it's like.
So she just leads lesbians, or... Because, I mean, English is important here.
It's a coven of witches. Most witches are lesbians, I'm pretty sure. That's where the source of their dark magical powers comes from.
The issue is that thanks to the Frankfurt School and Michael Foucault, everything is becoming gay. In fact, I'm doing a polling news item where the British Heritage Fund has now deemed Hadrian's Wall as gay. A pile of, yes.
It's rocks.
Correct. But because Hadrian had gay relationships in the 2000 AD, that you cannot compare to the social mores of today. You cannot apply today's social mores to 2000 fucking AD. Sorry for my French. But they now suddenly Hadrian is gay, and Hadrian's Wall is gay, and the British Museum is celebrating LGBT Hadrian's Wall experience. Like it's like everything has become pink, and it's crazy. Now, just to finish off my point on my show, the irony is that he was actually making love to a 12-year-old Greek boy named Antonius. And the thing is, even back then, that was considered out of bounds. So, ironically, the British Heritage Fund is celebrating a pedophile wall.
Jesus.
Like these people are supposed to be experts in their fields. So we're not just talking about the gaying of Hollywood. I'm just only bringing this up because it won't fucking stop. Like it's happening everywhere.
But my point is, if you put the gay aside, what's with the Filipino Canadian? Why not just say this is the character?
No, but that is we're now labeling everything. Everything has to be labeled.
Well, because Hollywood has to check boxes now.
Yeah, and John Waters on what's his name's show on Friday, Bill Maher, he said, like, do you care if straight men play gays makes straight? I don't care. Tom Hanks apologized that he would never do the Philadelphia Story. I mean, I think he won an Academy Award for that.
Classic gay, that's why.
And the thing is,
Tom,
the movie would never have been done. Movie would never have been done without his name.
Witch.
So I mean, Hollywood is a balance of checks and balances. You have a named person will open a movie, will make money, the story gets out.
But I get a feeling, guys, that it's almost like if you walk through a studio, you get a badge that says, "I'm gay, Filipino, Canadian."
He won't wear the ribbon.
By leftist, whatever. It's why not just hi? It used to be hi, my name is George. Now it's like asshole or lovable ass or Greek. It's just very odd to me.
No, everything is odd. There's a nurse up here in Canada who proudly promoted the fact that she now finally got her rainbow ribbon with her name tag on it so she can show to people that she's their ally. Prior to this, she let every fucking gay person die in the hallway. now she's got the ribbon in her car. Now she's going to help them. Now she can help them. It's
Well, that was my point, Paul.
The sheriff's badge.
It's it's all turned into a crazy Seinfeld episode.
World. Yes, we are living.
He won't wear the ribbon.
World.
Yes. Yeah,
yes, that is correct.
It's
what do you mean you won't wear the ribbon?
He won't wear the ribbon.
Well, because mainly because and I think we all know this now, that the message is more important than profit.
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
They don't care about making money anymore.
No.
It's about the message. They'll lose billions on this message.
Oh, the bullet 7.
Yeah.
You could kill people with the trans bullet.
I saw this. I had asked him because I was like, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what the hell is this? They actually now, you know what? In games, I don't mind. People can mod whatever the hell they want, but
Holy
they made
shit.
it for everyone. Yeah, that's the new Call of Duty.
Actually, there's kind of an allegory to this.
Well,
I mean,
no.
Yeah, it's kind of,
no, and it's probably not what you're thinking. I mean, they are the most dangerous group, and they can take you down the fastest. That's the thing.
Well, listen, none of these companies were supporting me and my fellow gay friends in 1972 when we were having eggs and ink thrown at us. Fighting the cops who were attacking the bathhouses.
Did you want pink bullets?
I wish I had them back then. So there was no companies flying their gay flags as we were being attacked by the police for trying to support our gay friends.
So you're saying they were hypocrites, or what?
Hypocrite. That might be too strong a word, George. I don't know.
Well,
look, man. There's a reason why I labeled Pride Month Panderpalooza, because
it is now
interesting.
That's exactly what it is, right? It's like these companies, they see dollar signs. Look, I think a lot of companies go into the black in June, right? Because all they gotta do is put a rainbow on their coffee mugs, on their t-shirts, and they're going to sell. I think, right? Because Target, I saw recently, said, "Hey, we're not doing that again this year. We're not going to have the trans bathing suits for little boys to tuck their dicks under." So I mean,
when's Black Pride Month, Riot?
We don't have a Black Pride Month. We have the shortest month of the year, which is February for Black History Month. So they gave us those 28 days, I guess. But no, we don't have. There's no Black Pride. It's just Black History.
We don't have an Indigenous month in Canada, crazily enough. Which I always thought, well, that's we have Indigenous Day. They only get one day.
One day?
Yeah, but we do have Black Pride Month in Canada.
Well, apparently there's two months, right? Because there's Pride Month, and then I think there's the Trans Awareness Month, right? So they get 2 months out of the year.
There's also Visibility Day.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
It's we've got everything.
Well, it's the gaying up of America, man, and I still don't know exactly what the agenda is yet completely. Like, what's the end game in all this? I don't know.
Divide and conquer is the only thing I can see. Turn everybody.
There can be a slightly more innocent explanation. It is just a form of purity spiral. Like, effectively, what you've done is you've set up a system of incentives, often backed by cash and government grants, which then perpetuate themselves. Why is it that every government department now has to fly a pride flag for an entire month of the year? That's because they are incentivized to do so. Why is it that anything that receives state funding does the same thing? Why does the British Museum, to take the earlier example, do entire exhibitions trying to decide that, I don't know, maybe this ancient Viking we just dug up was trans? Why do they do that? They get government money because they can then fill in a grant and they can say, look what we're doing to further the cause of acceptance of marginalized peoples. And the government looks at that and says, well, we've got that system in place for a reason, so we might as well give you the cash. And the more cash you give, the more people will do it. And it becomes more and more of a thing. Eventually, the consumer gets quite annoyed about this. And that's the Target example that was just raised, because you will overstep the mark eventually. And when your actual core audience stops buying the product that you're selling, there's only so much a government grant can do to make up that shortfall. Once that happens, then behaviors change. But at the moment, it's unfortunate because that backlash, which will come the more this is pushed. I feel fucking homophobic during this month.
Yes.
And I'm not fucking straight. It's annoying. I hate Pride Month. But like the more this happens, the more the backlash becomes generalized. And consumers don't just say, well, I'm not going to shop at Target if you're selling that product. It's, please stop making literally every high street in the country gay. Why is it that gay people want this? Well, they don't actually. That's not true. But unfortunately, that's the impression that's given. And so the backlash comes and it sweeps everybody up into it. And then you end up doing an immense disservice by the very people that you say you're trying to uplift. Because
a lot of them,
then you get a complete retrogression in social acceptance. It's a fucking
Wait. Little Platoon is gay? I thought he was just British.
They're basically the same thing.
Oh.
A lot of the really loud people on the Pride stuff are, quote, bisexual, which, I mean, anybody can say they're bisexual, right?
Well, it's like saying you're non-binary. How do you prove that?
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
it's the most non-committal,
I've never
pandering that.
My joke about non-binary is that somebody who's not getting any.
Right, I agree. Because
when you look at it makes sense too. So
I've never understood the whole non-binary. If you're non-binary, but the moment you define yourself as non-binary, you're binary because you're either one thing or the other. So
That's right. Well, non-binary is just the offside of binary.
I know. So it doesn't. It's very.
But kind of like real quick, bring it back to Hollywood for a minute.
Yeah.
I want to raise that question again. How much can they afford to keep losing in this? Right? Like how much can look, studios, they're not infinite, okay? They don't have this infinite bank account. How much money can they keep losing before they have to say, okay, we give up. We got to start making films people want to watch again.
Well, to answer that question, last night on YellowFlash, I was asking Valiant, because John Nolte had written that Disney Plus, for example, had lost $4 billion, and then Valiant was turning around and was saying, I think, wasn't it YellowFlash? He said somewhere 10 to 14 billion since its inception, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So think about it. They've lost $14 billion. Last year, they lost $1 billion on their films. So there has to be. Now you have Nelson Peltz, if I'm correct. He pulled out, didn't he? This week he pulled out. Does everybody?
Yeah, he dumped all of his shares.
And now we have, and look at the caliber of the
pulling
talent.
out is a Catholic thing, and I was wondering because he's Jewish. Like you don't pull out.
Pulls it out.
I promise I'll pull out early.
Pulls it somewhere. But now you look at the caliber of the cast. I was watching these videos of the cast because I couldn't believe it. I saw them on Twitter and I was like, "Is this AI crap? It can't be real." Listen, I pulled 3 of these.
Oh my God!
No, you gotta hear this one.
Anakin Solo.
This one.
Anakin Solo, The Last Space Knight.
Whoops,
That's my favorite Star Trek character.
He's the desert smuggler.
Yes.
Hold on, which one?
With the talking tree, right?
Yes.
Here we go.
Because the Jedi are these, and from where I was growing up, from the films that I was
Okay,
seeing, they were better than could be. They were the utmost and could do nothing wrong.
Rumors.
And it was this kind of godlike nature.
Godlike.
So getting to see more of the person.
I was curious. They were so godlike that didn't Qui-Gon die? We got all the Jedi that died.
It's not just that they died, it's that their arrogance and their misrule brought down the entire Galactic Republic. And this is a guy who presumably grew up with the prequels like I did. The Jedi were never portrayed as this.
I know, but it gets worse, Platoon. It gets worse. Watch this one.
Well, before we get to the next video, I wanted to point out something that I noticed the other day. Is this like the woke starter pack now for every movie and show? You get a Don Lemon gay type, you get a British dark-haired lesbian, or could be bisexual lesbian, and then you get the bad person who's always a tall, either blonde or white-haired chick. Most likely British, like Little Platoon. But
Boy,
We do
all
make good
British
villains.
are evil.
We make good villains.
And here we go. Here's the woke starter pack right there.
Is her head shaved or is that just pushed
just
back?
I think it's
Okay.
just slicked back, but
Okay.
yeah.
Hold on, it's giving me the wrong one. Damn it. So hold on, we have Robert Meyer Burnett is here. Let's bring him out while I find this.
Robert.
1 second.
All right, Mr. Stream. I was driving. I came in.
Oh, well,
What happened?
We had him for a second.
He was here and then
He was
left.
canceled.
Damn, Robert.
Someday.
He's back.
It's gonna happen. Tom, I'm sorry I missed your birthday. I came in
it's okay.
early on your stream. We were driving. I was going to another birthday party that was 90 minutes away. So I was in the car.
Brother. No worries, brother.
Okay, I'm glad that Robert is here because I want to hear what he thinks, along with everyone else, about this cast and how they're talking about the Acolyte.
Oh, he had a few things to say on X, I saw. Yeah.
I know, that's why I would like him to bring his take. Hold on.
But maybe one of the things that was most terrifying is stepping into that position of Jedi. We haven't seen a lot of Jedi in the last couple films or
What?
TV shows that have
Wait,
come
what?
out.
Yo.
Prequels, there's hundreds of them.
Yeah,
Well, not just that. Okay,
Thousands.
the last couple films.
Ahsoka, Ezra.
Ahsoka, excuse me.
So is he saying that the sequel trilogy doesn't count anymore? Fuck yes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Just wait. Just wait. I mean, it's like these guys are. Hold on. They're laughable.
Returning to that storyline and reinvesting in it was daunting because the Jedi are these, and from where I was growing up, from the films that I
Use
was
a
seeing
verb.
with-
I need a verb.
He doesn't.
Can I get a verb, please?
And the last one, the most brilliant one.
The sine qua non of quotes.
Yes, it is. And so I'm wondering, doesn't the studio have someone that says, give them some notes, talk to them, tell them what to say so we don't look like morons?
idea that this good and bad element is so dependent on your experiences, your history, your parents, your friends. It's like so much bleeds into that.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it, why Palpatine would be committed to the directions that he's committed to as bad. As
Not saying anything.
Personally, we'll see it as bad.
Here
but
comes-
a lot of people would see the sides that are like, well, Anakin
What?
killed the whole Death Star. How many people died on that? Is that not bad? But I find that part of
That Anakin killed the whole Death
I missed
Star.
the part where Anakin killed the Death Star.
I know. Is it in a movie I didn't see?
That's the song. Anakin killed the Death Star.
There's actually the bit in Revenge of the Sith, I think it is, where Palpatine uses the line "good and evil are points of view." Anakin, he's actually doing Palpatine. He is Palpatine. Oh, it's all moral relativism. Some people would actually think that what Palpatine did was right, and some people think that millions of people died when the Death Star blew up. And
He's just
that's
bringing
not really
justice.
good
He's just
and
bringing
bad.
justice to the galaxy. It's
that's all.
But that's
And
because
pronouns.
nowadays to tell a story of just good and evil is boring.
Boring. There you go. Because we need pronouns.
Right.
Pronoun police.
Well, and a lot of people have seriously pointed out the fact that, look, even if he misspoke and he meant Luke, right?
I don't think he misspoke. You hear the whole interview. Come
I
on.
get what you're saying, but I'm just
You're
saying,
not the Jedi
let's just play
God.
devil's advocate for a second.
Okay.
It's the fact that he is trying to point out that Luke destroying the Death Star in some way was some evil act just shows you how completely idiotic these folks are, because the whole point of that is they destroyed an entire freaking planet unprovoked.
Right.
it just
Like, it was just like, bye.
Leah,
See
Leah's
ya.
planet.
the
Alderaan's
entire
gone.
planet's gone, but let's worry about the Death Star janitor.
And not only that, they were on their way to take out what was left of the rebellion,
But-
thanks to Marshall Lucas.
Even
right? So, yeah.
independent of the specifics, he's inarticulate.
He is.
If you replay Ella Purnell's interview for Fallout, that should be the textbook example of all performers and shows. She went out, played the game. She learned about the history of Fallout, and her interviews are fantastic. she's very articulate. I mean, she's articulate, and she knows how to talk about the show in a positive way and about the game. So as a gamer, as a Fallout fan, I'm going, oh my God, I love her.
Yeah, I liked what she was doing. It was a breath of fresh air to see someone act like that when we've had all these clowns. Like, she was very respectful and nice, and wanted you to know that, listen, I want to take care of you. Like, you don't see that too often.
Well, and conversely, even Walton Goggins, said, I don't know the game, but didn't play it. I have no fucking clue about it. End of story.
Yeah, and he killed it, and he killed the role.
Yes, he did. He
killed it. But the point is, he was honest. He didn't do what this guy did, try to pretend that he knows about the property. Be honest. Know nothing about it.
But that's because that's because Disney, it reminds me a lot of Amazon Prime's Rings of Power. It's like at Lucasfilm, it feels like the activists are pretending to be actors. Kathleen Kennedy's pretending not to wear a strap on, and Leslie Headland thinks she's pretending to be George Lucas.
So that's how Leslie got the role.
There's no other way. I mean, I've looked at her work. Come on. I wish someone in the chat, I've been looking for it. If any of y'all find it, there is a video somewhere online where Leslie Headland is standing on the stage in front of curtains, and she explains how she originally got her job with Lucasfilm, where she says, I bullshitted. I didn't know anything about making films. I didn't know, but I told them I knew it all. I was an expert. I was a pro. And she just says that straight to the audience, straight to the camera. And she's serious. I've been looking for that forever. I used to have it and it disappeared.
Damn.
But
it's probably in your porn collection.
Oh, I should check there then. Robert, you've been silent.
Different folder.
Well, no, look, here's the thing.
Okay.
Actors have never been known for their articulate analysis of the material that they're in. And they shouldn't have to be. But one of the things that you have when you do these junkets, there are publicists there that can help and say, listen, I think you misspoke. Can we take it back? Let's re-record that segment.
Okay.
And it's their job to make sure to protect the actors. You know, the thing that really bothered me about this is I was going off on this because it wasn't the actor's fault that he misspoke. I don't expect actors to be fans or understand the things the way we are. The very interesting thing is, having done so many DVD documentaries where I've interviewed cast members about things, I never ask the cast to delve into the material itself because they don't know nearly as much as the fans who will be watching these interviews. So if you buy, like when I was doing the Star Trek The Next Generation discs, when I sat down with Patrick Stewart twice for hours at a time. These were long, really long interviews. And the first time I sat down with him, I said, listen, I'm not gonna ask you about Star Trek. And he laughed. And I said, look, if I were to ask you about the geopolitical situation between the Romulans and the Klingons during the Battle of Narendra 3, what would you tell me? And he laughed and he said nothing. And I said, that's why I'm not going to ask you about Star Trek. What I am going to ask you is about you, because the audience wants to know about you as a person. You know, they can tell you more about the character of Jean-Luc Picard than you can tell them. So when you interview celebrities about material, what is their experience making something? You know, what was it like to get the job? What did it mean to you when the character of Jean-Luc Picard started to take off? So you try and stay away from in-universe commentary, because you'll always lose with an actor and you'll end up embarrassing them. And this kind of thing will happen. And the interviewers should, and the publicists should know that, because their job is to protect their talent. And I saw this as an epic fail. Like, even when Perry Nemiroff was doing the interview, she knows the answer. She could have said, hey, wait a minute, I think you misspoke. What you meant to say was Luke. But nobody did that. And this poor guy, I mean, look, when people thought I was making fun of him, I was making fun of the system, the marketing publicity system that failed that actor.
Right. But I don't mean to interrupt you, because you have a good point. I want you to continue, but I want to ask, the older generation of actors seem to have known the characters in the stories. And that's the way it came across. Mark Hamill, can't stand him as a person, but as an actor, when he was promoting Star Wars, he felt like he knew it. At least that's how it came across. Even Harrison Ford, who hated the role, as we discovered later, came across as he knew the role. Christopher Lee, he loved Tolkien, and you could tell. It's like these older actors seem to, whether pretending or not, They felt that they loved what they were doing and they knew the story.
Harrison Ford, I don't know. What's a Force ghost?
Yeah, today, but in the past, when you look at his old,
he gets a pass though.
When you look at his old Johnny Carson stuff, and he'd blow some stuff up, and he'd say, he's a smuggler, he's a this, he's a that, and he wouldn't be like, let me tell you.
I want to add one thing that even the creators don't remember their own shit. So I was a member of a comedy group called The Frantics, and we did that for nearly 20 years, and we did hundreds of half-hour shows, and we would go someplace and I'd get recognized at some restaurant or something, and a kid would come up and word for word tell me a sketch that I wrote that I could no longer remember. So
convinced that George Lucas forgot the Star Wars movies when he wrote the prequels to this day.
Well, there's that. But the fans often know more about your own shit than you do.
Absolutely.
Right. But what Robert was saying is that so you're saying it's not the actor's fault who's saying that the Jedi, it's like he hasn't watched anything. That's what I got from him. It's like he's trying to pretend to be a fan, and it comes off as phony to me.
Well, just very quickly, sort of pitching words, borrowing from what Robert was just saying. There's the thing I think you can tell that he's trying to do, and this is again something that the studio couldn't correct because I think they probably told him to do it, is to draw this moral equivalency point. Because if you look at the sales pitch for the Acolyte, if you read any of the synopses for it or anything that anyone has ever said about it, what they are always stressing is it's not about good and evil, it's about power and who gets to use it. Clearly, the sales line that they've asked the actors to riff on is this moral gray stuff. It's going to be interesting because it's not just good and evil. And that's what the actor was making his cat-handed attempt to put across in the Death Star point. I don't know that the studio would ever fix that because that seems to have been what they told him to go and say anyway. So he's kind of screwed from both ends. He doesn't know the material, and he's also been given bad material.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. But if you have somebody like Sam Witwer, who's done a lot of voice acting and things like that in the Star Wars animated shows, that guy knows Star Wars backwards and forwards. Right. He's a very knowledgeable guy, and having a cursory knowledge of these things, I mean, it's still, I do think somebody could have stepped in and corrected him, and then they just take it back. And that's kind of what the point. I mean, it's not like these interviews are live. You can stop them at any time and go back and make a correction. And people have done that, like when it comes to facts and figures, like when somebody started shooting something or who's in something, if somebody makes a mistake, they frequently go back and do that. I mean, I interview costume designers for my Designing Hollywood show all the time. I think I've done, and I'm always asking them about movies and TV. And if they make a mistake, they're like, I don't think that's right. I'm like, okay, that's no problem. I'll cut it out. And what you try and do is you want your actors to come off well. And I think when the studio doesn't make these corrections, they're the ones that are falling down on the job. And the last thing you want to have is actors opining on these things anyway. I mean, and that's not to put actors down, but their job. See, the thing about actors that it's very difficult to understand this for people that haven't worked in the industry. But the actors are not the characters that they play.
Right, but shouldn't they know the character in and out and the story? Am I missing that?
But see, it's more the director's job.
Yeah, and it really is. Actors come and they say their lines, and they leave, and that's what they do.
I guess it was different for me when I was in theater. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, but I mean, but also but theater though,
it's like I knew the whole play. I knew my role. I knew everyone's role. It's like.
Right, that's kind of the exception, George. And you do get your Edward Nortons and stuff like that once in a while, but like Robert's right. What he's saying is like most of the time you get these guys in there, like Shatner. You want to sit there and talk to him about like Kirk. You're gonna bore his ass. You start talking to him about like his horses and some of his other things that he's into. He'll light up like a fucking light bulb.
Yeah,
that's a big difference because that's what he's into, and that's kind of where Robert's coming from. Is these guys don't sit around and think about their craft all day long. They're not all Edward Nortons. They're not all like.
But in an interview, when they're supposed to be pitching it, Tom.
Well, and that's where Robert's right. This comes down to the handlers, the people around him. They should have never put that clip out there. It should have been either re-recorded or edited out completely because about a dozen people in the room should have caught it.
Yeah,
and been like, wait a minute. Yeah. Like this is a breakdown of the system, and it's either because somebody didn't give a shit or somebody wasn't doing their job,
or somebody in the marketing side didn't know.
Or like Platoon said, this is the message they wanted to come across.
I could believe what Robert's saying too.
That might be something. Though the marketing for Star Wars has been bad for years. I mean, look at Kathleen Kennedy. The first thing she, how many interviews has she given in the past year? She just comes out and says, "Yeah, we don't want you here. Get the hell out. You're just too mean to all these women." Like, what? This is how you promote a show that comes out in 1 week?
Right. And to piggyback on that, for me, Disney can they afford this? Can they afford to keep making these mistakes, right? And the reason why I say this as a mistake is because some of you guys know Disparu. He's part of the FNT crew. He put out a tweet yesterday that said that the Acolyte is 8 episodes, 30 minutes each, right? Yeah. Each episode is $750,000 to make.
Yeah, it's like
$750,000 to make per episode, which averages out to $2,500 a second. Right? Can they afford to keep making these kind of mistakes and continue on as a studio?
You probably meant 7.5 million.
Right, because it's 185 million for the whole production.
No, well, he wrote 750,000 per episode. Episode. So I don't know how, but and I don't know where he got that number from, but he's usually pretty right when he posts things like that.
But don't, I mean, they're not making any money on the Acolyte.
They've lost 1.8. Yeah, they've lost.
Well, they're paying themselves, Paul.
No, well, yeah, but the Disney Plus is not going to get anything out of it, and apart from a write-off, Disney's not going to get anything positive.
But that's what I'm saying. How much can they keep affording to lose? Like, how much money is too much money?
Well, to answer your question, they've lost almost $2 billion on all of Disney Plus's Star Wars shows so far. It's 1.89 something. That's so now you add this, it's over 2 billion. I don't think this is going to be a success. I could be wrong.
If Disney wants to make money, they need to cancel Disney Plus.
I agree. No, I completely agree with that.
And
I
stop
think
all
also
the bad Star Wars shows and replace them with just one is all I'm asking for. One good Star Wars film in the cinema, which is the only thing that can actually save the franchise. All the Disney Plus shows would be so much more successful if they were part of a franchise which had life in it because the films were good. I don't think when Disney purchased Star Wars and spent so much money doing so that they were anticipating a gap of it will be almost a decade, won't it, by the time whatever the next film comes out is, between Star Wars films, between The Rise of Skywalker and whatever the next one is. I don't think that was on their cards. I think they absolutely did not expect everyone to completely hate the shit out of The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. So they've lost a huge amount of opportunity. They keep putting these shows out as though they'd kept the films going, but they haven't. And the next film that's going to come out is either going to be The Mandalorian and Grogu, which is the desperation pitch based on the only semi-popular thing they've done so far, with the arguable exception for Rogue One, or the Rey movie, which is just inviting people to remember why they stopped watching to begin with. So
what you're saying is Disney is sunk. They're done.
Yes. Yeah, their strategy's gone. I don't think they even have one. They're losing money and they do not know how to fix it. I think they're scared of the films.
Disney did just bring out the latest Rey movie. Rey swims the English Channel.
That's actually true. Paul's there. It's a real movie that's come out that stars Daisy Ridley.
Are you?
It's a biopic. Yeah,
I'm not joking.
Okay,
it's Rey swims the English Channel with a lightsaber.
But what I find fascinating about what we're seeing with these franchises is that there's this new belief that there were people that were not that fans were not watching these shows before because they weren't represented. And the thing is, people, since time immemorial, people are different. Men and women, for instance, are attracted to different things in storytelling. It's not like one story fits all. And what they've done is, like Chris Gore is talking about this, they took a story that essentially, there are female characters in Star Wars. Princess Leia is a very strong, well-drawn character for the first time you see her. She's putting the plans in R2-D2. She takes out a stormtrooper. She gets in Vader's face. She gets in Tarkin's face. I mean, she's not scared of anything. She's an incredibly well-drawn, strong female character. Now, and now they keep trying to change these archetype characters in order to force them to be appealing to I don't know who, because this kind of storytelling goes back literally thousands of years. And men like certain kinds of storytelling, women like other kinds of storytelling. Sometimes, as Chris Gore would point out, this was a story that primarily appealed to men, especially from the merchandising space.
Star Wars, yeah, you're right.
I'm not saying that women don't like this or that women can't watch this. It's just these kinds of tales. Look, I'm sure a lot of women love Conan the Barbarian, but for the most part, it's a male skewing genre.
It's a male brand. It's a male brand. Star Wars is a male brand that women can enjoy. It's not.
I wouldn't even call it a male brand because like that almost draws a false equivalence.
Okay.
No one ever set out with Star Wars to say we are going to make a male brand.
No,
they gave us the story, and the audience naturally went where it went. By the same token, you don't currently have male heads of studios saying the problem with Barbie is that the fan base is too female focused. We need to open it up to more men. Because
what would you call it then?
You don't get that because no one seems to have a problem when it's a popular thing among women. But when it comes to something like Star Wars, which no one ever said had to be for men only, and plenty of women do like it, it just happened to fall along those lines. Then you get Kathy Kennedy coming out and saying that the problem is that the majority of our fan base are the wrong sex. And how do you expect them to respond to that kind of thing?
I mean, because it goes back to forcing behavior, right? Yeah. They want to change the zeitgeist. They want to be the ones to say, "Hey, look what we did. We took this boys brand, and now it's for powerful young women." Right? I posted a clip today on my Twitter, and it was a clip of Game of Thrones, and it was the episode where Daenerys takes control of the eunuch army or the slave army, and just that scene, man. You want to talk about a girl boss? That's how you write a girl boss. The way she handled that scene. She didn't lift a finger. She didn't hit a guy in the face. She didn't pick up a sword. Just with her voice, commanded the whole scene, man. And I'm like, that's how you write a girl boss, right?
Brilliant. Yep.
I just don't understand how you don't see that when you're making a film, when you're writing a story. There has to be some level of realism. And I'm just tired of seeing these 90-pound girls, taking down these 300-pound guys with a punch, right? Like even like what's her name, Black Widow, right? Like, yeah, sure, I love the Avengers and I love Black Widow. I never buy when Scarlett Johansson is like knocking a guy out who's like 250 pounds. You know what I mean? There has to be some level of realism.
I get that. But before we go on, I really have to read the super chats because we've had so many come in, and then we'll continue this. Fletcher, let's bring them up real quick. Okay, we got Donna Hergenrether, member for 4 months. Cancel Disney Plus. Amen. I'm
already did.
Steel Leg of History, member for 4 months. I'm testing my new leg before it gets done. 354 SBS.
Pounds?
SBS square. I don't know what that is, Steel Leg, but God bless you. I hope it's working out well for you. Taylor Swift, greater than Disney, Star Wars and MCU, and Doctor Who for $2. Where's Tom's wrench? LOL, you're fired. Okay, we'll find it. Graph Web for $2. Cancel Disney Plus. A lot of canceled Disney Pluses. Love you guys. See, they can't keep up with what's going on. Next, we have Angela Richter, member for 4 months. Finally was able to join y'all. Hey, welcome. I'm glad you're here, Angela. I see you always in the comments, so I'm glad you could join us. Caradwin, member for 2 months. So happy to be amongst such fine folks. Well, we're happy to have you here. It's really thrilling to be back. 2 weeks in bed. I missed you all. Eric K gifted 10 Georgia Giant Slayer memberships. The king of the mods gifted memberships. I hope you all picked them up because next Saturday we're having a membership stream. GJJ is a member for 3 months. Wow, 3 months. We're getting there. Steel Leg of History for $5. I just say I can throw my leg at y'all. LOL. If you don't like what I'm saying, so either mute me or shut up. LOL. Well, you can throw it around. That'd be interesting. New superpower. Eric K for $5. VR. Many of those starlets went to Harvey willingly to get ahead. I know for a fact one who complained broke up her relationship for the Oscar. Look, in the old days, come on. People used to talk about that all the time. The casting couch. How many actors would willingly go out. They would do that so they could get ahead. They wanted to. There wasn't forcing.
And sometimes that casting couch worked both ways.
Correct.
So that's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
it did. Skiz Spivak Esquire for $28. Hail George, hail all. Hail to you, Skis. Great to see you. Rod Thunderheart. I love that name. Rod Thunderheart. For $10 Canadian. Hail George, a Spanish teacher who can become invisible when angry falls for the new gym teacher, but he can see her when she's invisible. Fiend that freeze and press. Okay, is that book or is that a show or am I missing something? Does anybody know about that?
Are you just referring
His
to
book, his book. It's his book. Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to check that out. Eric K for $5. Paul, not only London, Hadrian's Wall, U.S. Navy just named a ship after Harvey Milk, a no well-documented Fredo. Okay, as well. I did not know that about him. Mad
Harvey Milk was a hero because he was played by a straight white actor.
That was in the days when an actor could play any role.
Yeah, which he would never do now.
Yeah, no. Mad Cheesemo for $10. Hey, Mads. Great to see you here. My man George, what's Gucci Ninja? Hope to see you in Dallas. I'll be there on the 7th. Geez, I didn't realize how much more I have to use in his super chat. Hey, Tom, happy birthday. Still have room. Happy birthday also to Tom. And happy birthday to Robert Meyer Burnett.
Happy birthday, Robert.
Thank you.
Actually, I do have to get running here. I do apologize. But, yeah.
Well, thank you for coming, Tom. You're always welcome.
I love hanging out with you guys, and it's always fun, and I wish I could stay longer, but thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely my pleasure. Hope you'll be back.
And thank you all for the birthday wishes as well. Take care.
Happy birthday,
Tom.
Have a good night.
Good night. Happy birthday. Olaf for €6. George, another great epic collection of guests on Slayer Nation live stream. Great to see you back on your feet. We never bend the knee. Always forward. Absolutely. Eric,
unless we're giving someone a blowjob.
Yeah,
then you got to get down there.
Of course. That would come from Paul. Always brilliant. Eric K for $2. Happy birthday, Robert Meyer Burnett.
Thank you.
Hey, they love you. Nini gifted one Georgia Giants Slayer membership. Thank you, Nini. Please go pick up that membership. Andrew Graham, member for 3 months. Like a decent X-Men movie. That's when we're talking. When are they going to make a next decent movie? Yeah. When are they going to make a decent one? Aiken, member for 4 months. Good day, George, panel, and chat. Good day to you, my friend. I think that we're almost done. Other theory for $5. The woke claim to be the majority. They point to the last Prez election as proof. So where is the audience for which they are making movies? We'll talk about that in a second. Frank Hammond, member for 4 months. Greetings from Gettysburg. Great show as always. Thank you, Frank. I'm glad you're enjoying it. You know, that's a point that he brought up. Where is the audience? I mean, they're making movies for an audience that doesn't exist. Because Verbal was bringing it up earlier. How long can they keep going? YellowFlash?
I think a few more years.
Okay.
It's going to take time to see things kind of flip back.
They feel morally justified. They are on a crusade. You will not convince them otherwise of their of their crusade.
But they need money though. So it's
they're the ones who are not footing it. This is the thing that I have always found most fascinating, all the way back to Comicsgate, is that the woke first, however, got infiltrated these large Warner Brothers and Marvel comic book businesses. They can't create anything new on their own, but they can change the properties that they're working on. I never understood why management just didn't kick them out on their asses, because they didn't do anything of value. They didn't create anything new. So to me, it's always been a mystery.
It gets harder.
It's basically hijacking the fandom is what it is.
Correct.
Right. It's like the thing is, activists don't create; they just take over. Right. They don't know how to create. Because my thing is, and I ask this with a lot of black characters. Right. I hate race swap characters. I think, look, man, if you're going to write a black character, don't be lazy. Write an original black character, give him a story, and I'll go watch that. I don't want to see black Superman. I don't want to see black Batman, right? Write me an original story. And some of these people are just very happy to have, to be seen so badly that they'll take a race swap, a gender swap, all these things. And activists, that's what they do. That's what they specialize in, is hijacking fandoms that other people have loved and other people have created and try to make it their own instead of doing the work and writing their own characters.
Why do the money bags let them?
But that's the point that I'm saying. They're in a company. Companies have to make money. Somebody at the top has got to say, where is the money? Disney Plus, almost $2 billion is lost. Is there no one who's sitting there going, Robert, I mean, you know how this.
Well, I would look, here's what I would like to say is that ultimately the storytelling is simply poor.
Right.
We're being fed bad stories. Their original conceptions are to service. Look, I don't care if a character is a person of color. I don't care if there's LGBTQ representation. It doesn't matter to me as long as the character is good. And what happens is, like, I'll give you an example. Val Kilmer's character in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang,
oh, love
the movie he's in with Robert Downey Jr. He plays a character named Gay Paris.
Mm-hmm.
He's a gay detective. He's a great character. You immediately love the portrayal of that character, and it's not because he's gay. You like him because of the way he's well written, and I think it's true of everyone. But what they do is these characters lead with whatever attributes they've been given, and they're not story driven. It's like, you will like this character because they are this kind of a person, and it's all. And I get the idea behind that is one, representation for people, I think, is ultimately a good thing. The problem is more representation is leading to bad storytelling, and bad storytelling defeats the purpose of inclusion, first of all, and it defeats the purpose of making money on stories, because if a story's bad, the audience knows and won't show up.
Well, it's the forced inclusion is what it is, right?
Yeah,
like you said,
that's what I mean.
inclusion is good, but forced inclusion, that's not art.
And no, it's not only is it not art, and the thing is, a character trait is not the only thing that a character. People are well-rounded. You know, I don't get out of bed in the morning and think about the fact that I'm a straight male that likes redheads. I mean, that's not the first thing that floats through my brain. Now, someone would say, well, Rob, you've never had to worry about who you are as a person. And I'm like, but my concerns of what I'm doing are out there. They're not, like, I know who I am. I'm not really particularly interested in seeing myself represented anywhere. What I want to do is I want to accomplish something. Like, I'm working on various projects. Those projects are important to me, not me. How I get my own affirmation is by accomplishing things that I want to do.
Right, but you're working on stories. You put story first.
But that ultimately is what people care about. And so it's interesting to note that it goes back to where is the audience question, but you have never had such a powerful drive for representation in media from all minority communities. And none of the minority communities actually turn out to support the thing they're supposedly represented in, because the characters they've been given to associate with are not characters. They're part of badly written things. No women go and watch Captain Marvel because Captain Marvel isn't a character. Gay people didn't turn out for the gay rom-com thing because they don't want to see bad stereotypes of themselves. The one great universal thing is people love good storytelling, as Robert is saying. If you want to bring people in and make them represented, do what we used to do and tell good stories with varieties of characters in it. Don't start saying, well, you're going to have to come and watch this because it's got a gay in it. That's just dull.
Well, because they sold the myth of you need to see yourself in these characters, right? And it is a myth, okay? Growing up, you know, in the hood, right? Being like the only black guy who read comics that I knew of, right? Amongst all these athletes and gangbangers. You don't think I could see myself in Peter Parker, even though he was white? You don't think I saw myself as that geeky kid? Like, I related to Peter Parker, not because he was, you know, not, you know, if they made him black, wouldn't have made a difference. You know, I saw myself in Peter Parker because I related to his character, right? That's what people care about, man. It's like, don't get me wrong, representation is important. And Hollywood has had a big problem with that in the past. A big problem, man. There was a time when black people could only get the dumbest roles, you know, like either the crook, the basketball player, the boy raised by the single black mom, right? Hollywood loved their stereotypes back then. Of course, now they're all about inclusion, but whatever. But so I get that representation is important, but it has to be natural, and it has to fit the story that's being told. It just can't be forced. You can't check a box and say, okay, we're doing inclusion now.
That's why I think the 90s, though, Verbal, I think in many ways represent that perfect time period where we had reached some kind of a balance, an equilibrium, where you had stories for everyone, but the story came first and they were natural. Now everything, like everybody's been saying, feels so forced. And this is a great point to pivot, because we're going to go and talk about Amazon's Rings of Power, because Tolkien is very near and dear to my heart. And to start that, I wanted to share where Amazon Prime is coming from. So we're going to listen to the head of their DEI for the studio.
in the television and film business, we have a green light process where we put up a title and decide whether or not we're going to make that show or that film. So we built in a DEI assessment into that green light process that asks ourselves at every green light, if we say yes to this project, what will it do to the numbers? Is it going to help women of color writers or hurt women directors? Is it going to help in certain areas or hurt in others? We ask ourselves, does this content have the potential to cause harm to customers, to you, because we're customer obsessed? And if so, do we have mitigation strategies to fix it? Like partner with GLAAD or partner with Illuminative or some of the other organizations we work with to get it right so that when it shows up in your home, you're delighted and not offended, right? So think about what it is your organization does on a regular basis.
That's where they come from on every show that they greenlight. DEI is first. And that's
how is the show automatically going to offend you when you don't know that the thing that wasn't in there to offend you?
Well, because the way when you look at Amazon's DEI, and now they've added A for accessibility, whenever they're going to either buy something or they start scripting something, before they start that, before it's like they name the project, okay, we're going to do whatever it is, water bottle, it really doesn't matter. They're like, okay, we have to break down the entire cast, the writers who we're going to hire first. They're looking at not the story, but who's telling the story.
No, but my point is, do they have precog offense experts?
They have their, I guess, their rules.
They must have precogs in there.
She goes through. This was a gathering.
Amazing.
Shocking.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear from Robert, because I found this clip. And I've been looking for it for a while because if it was from CNET. So they had all these DEI heads, and obviously Amazon's was leading it. And they're all going through, and not one of them is talking about, we want to put the best story together to have the greatest impact for our customers. They kept saying we're customer obsessed, but it's first with representation.
You know what'd be funny is that someone puts together some AI thing of Michael Todd from back in the MGM fantastic days where, he died too early, unfortunately, but have him say exactly those words. Like, back in the heyday of Hollywood.
How would have Hollywood reacted?
But the thing is that's disturbing to me is that the idea of what she's talking about, and like I was saying earlier, that representation is not a bad thing. But representation only matters when it's wrapped in something that people really enjoy. Nobody cares if they're represented in something that's not good. And it has to go hand in hand. And you have to ask yourself, well, okay, like Verbal was saying, when he was a young kid, a geeky, I'm not saying you were geeky, Verbal.
No, I was a comic book nerd.
Okay, you're a comic book nerd. But you, like you said, the stories that captured your imagination did so because they were great stories and great characters. And that's been the way it's been. That's why the Greeks had their stories about the gods. Those stories captured the imaginations of the people, and if a lot of them believe they were true, but it just doesn't, I don't understand why somebody who's never been particularly interested in storytelling, because if they were, they wouldn't even be on a board like this talking about DEI, because the people that the people that are in charge of these things, they don't even like stories. So if they don't like stories, they don't know the difference between what's good
not a priority.
And what's bad. No, I mean, I hate to go back to Star Trek, but I look at Star Trek and they just change things willy-nilly, and they don't understand why people get upset when they do so. When they retcon the history of Doctor Who with, what is it, the Timeless Children, or that episode where, but when you do something like that, I don't understand that people think that that's okay to do, in the first place. And they're doing something just because of how does representation in that particular instance make Doctor Who a better franchise?
It doesn't.
The challenge is that we need, of course, if you're doing a police procedural, I mean, yes, you cast it colorblind. I mean, you'd be stupid not to. There's no reason why you would concentrate on something like that. But I have said before that I don't want all my movies to look like Toronto. I live in Toronto, which is you got just every single ethnicity in Toronto. When I go to Bangkok or Thailand for a vacation, I don't want it to look like Toronto.
Yeah.
You know, that's not the reason for me to do that. If I go to Jamaica, I don't want it to look like Toronto. I don't want the whole world to look like Toronto. That's what the movie business and wokeism wants to happen. They want everything to be mocha.
So they want to
don't want any
homogenize
different
everything.
Pardon me?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. You on a roll. It's just it hit me. Again, forgive me for interrupting you. They want to homogenize everything.
Yes,
Is that what you're saying?
basically and this is what's driving me nuts. It's the main thing that I hated about Andor. As much as I like the maturing of Star Wars, the concept of it in Andor, it's like there was a South Asian, there was a black person, there was the the white, English, British, whatever. Listen. If I'm doing a space movie and I'm trying to make people look like they're outer worldly, I'll hire a bunch of 6-foot Finnish people. Like at least, with the few resources we have in our world, at least it would make people who are watching my film think that, oh, these are of a people. Right.
I think that was the difference with Andor, though, because like Andor, I think I didn't really mind it so much just because none of these people were not all from the same world in the first place. You know, they are a loose group. The rebels in particular are a loose group, sort of drawn from many different planets, different places. It didn't really bump me too much. But to talk exactly about what you're talking about there, Rings of Power has plenty of very good examples of that. Why exactly should an isolated group of hobbits or pre-hobbits resemble inner city Chicago in its ethnic makeup? Like that's sort of like the point of hobbits is that they don't tend to mix with other people, right? So you would expect if you're going to have a black hobbit, have all of them black hobbits because at least it will make sense. Right. Don't try and tell me that hobbits are actually going to resemble the Numenorians, who are going to resemble people we see in Gondor later, or people who are going to resemble the elves, because you then completely lose any sense of what makes these different groupings distinct anyway. It makes no sense from a world building perspective. But it then destroys your whole sense of geography, time, place, travel, everything. There's no difference.
But it makes even less sense when you talk Rings of Power, right? Because I know my introduction into Tolkien was the first Lord of the Rings movie. Like I knew the book existed, but I never saw the old cartoon, never read the book. So I kind of went in blind to the first Lord of the Rings, and I fell in love with it. So much so that it made me want to read the books because the movie was so good, right? And was that movie diverse? No, but it didn't need to be, right? Because that's not the way Tolkien wrote it, right? And that's fine. To go from those movies into this series where now it's just racially divided, it makes zero sense to anybody. And Tolkien is already a niche fandom, right? I mean, even though the Lord of the Rings movies did very well, it's still a niche fandom, right? Like people who love the movies will leave it at the movies and not go read the books, right? So the people you're trying to market to are Tolkien fans. Right. And what you're doing is destroying everything that they've loved.
I agree with that. And what Rings of Power, again, Rings of Power to me, just like I said earlier, with Lucasfilm at Disney, I view that the series is an entire production where everyone wants to play pretend. J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay, the showrunners, they learned some Elvish lines. They're graduates from J.J. Abrams' Cinematic School of Sloppy Seconds. I mean, that's where these guys came from. And so they go out and they're like, well, we have hobbits in ours. Well, no, you don't. They're like, well, we have Harfoots. Yeah, but they are psychotic pygmies. I mean, you spend any time watching the show, it's like, we don't leave anyone behind.
It stars Lenny Henry, for God's sakes.
I know, but they sing these songs, these happy pack of murder hobbits. We love everyone. We don't leave anyone behind. And then the next thing is,
I'm leaving someone behind.
Wheels off and kill them. I mean, like, so.
By the way, I'm going to use Murder Hobbit from now on.
Go ahead.
From now on.
I mean, if you think about their cast, you got the elf that forgot to take her medication. That's Galadriel, Grumpy Goldilocks. You got the discount Dark Lord Muxaron. I mean, there's nothing that they've done. Tolkien is one of the best-selling book series of all time. I think it once after Jackson's Two Towers, it came. I know it's not by a lot, but it was like by 1 million books of reaching the Quran, which for 1 year. I mean, he started writing this in the bloody trenches of World War I. And now, what do they announce? They announce that we get Tom Bombadil, who Ralph Bakshi did not want to include. Peter Jackson did not want to include. He had an idea for it, but he's like, So they're adding this character in. So I was reading this Vanity Fair article. Now, and here's how they show him, right? And for anyone Tolkien fan will understand, and I wrote the line down because I always seem to forget it. But one of the lines that describes Tom is, and I'm sure Platoon knows this, but it's
Is this the old Tom Bombadil as a merry fellow?
Yeah,
bright blue his jacket was, and his boots were yellow.
Boots are yellow.
I can't remember the rest. His hat's supposed to have a feather in it as well.
It is a yellow, blue one, blue. Now, does anyone see here a bright, cheery, flamboyant fellow?
I never saw him as bearded.
He's bearded. His wrinkles makes him look as old as time. It's part of the.
It's funny. I mean,
was he around back in this era?
Oh, see, that's the thing about Tom Bombadil.
I've never read the book.
Okay, well, Tom Bombadil, Tolkien left him mysterious, but
ageless.
He is ageless. He saw the first raindrop fall, named the first acorn, saw the sky when it was ferociously dark before the stars. Something.
Saw the very first Mary Tyler Moore show.
Yeah, he was around before Morgoth or Melkor, the first Dark Lord. Now, when I started the channel, I started covering Rings of Power, and I had gotten to know a couple of people who worked at the studio. And at first I didn't believe them, like they'd email and they're like, oh, we have some information because we really like what you're doing. We hate what we're doing, but it's a job. I'm like, but 6 or 7 things that they had told me a few months ahead of time came out. So I was asking them, we've kept in contact. I was like, what's the deal with Bombadil? And they told me this months ago. They said in the writer's room, again, don't know if this is true, but these guys have told me 7 things that have worked out. They said in the writers' room when they first came up with the Bombadil, they wrote 2 boxes. One, they literally did the mystery box. They don't know what to do with him. Put him in there. It'll show that we respect Tolkien. The other one is they want to make him Morgoth as a surprise for season 5. Like the Dark Lord never died. That's why the ring can't affect him. And I'm like,
what?
Yeah, that's the other part. So they're sitting here. In the Vanity Fair article, they go on and describe him as flamboyant. They're pulling lines directly from Tolkien. I just wanted to know if it's my imagination. Does anybody see this guy as bright and cheery, colorful, flamboyant?
Well, honestly, in all fairness, we can't tell from a single picture.
Okay, because they have multiple. We'll go through them, but all his clothes are dirty. Bombadil's were bright, neon.
That looks like something somebody's grandmother would wear.
I always thought of him as kind of a prototypical hippie.
Yeah, same.
Tolkien had some very different ideas about him, because Tolkien was always resistant to any suggestion that he was writing allegorically or things. But I think he did say that Tom Bombadil sort of embodies the spirit that you get in the time of war, which is sort of resistant to the world itself. It's like he is the embodiment of complete distance, separation. And then he takes on this almost fairy tale quality. And I think Tolkien says quite explicitly that he doesn't, strictly speaking, fit the narrative.
No,
he doesn't really belong. He doesn't have the same sort of agency. He's unaffected by the ring, but that's the reason they can't give him the ring, is because he would probably just drop it because he doesn't care. Like, he's designed to not take part. That's his whole thing. Just to give the sense that there are bigger, darker, or not darker, but deeper, mysterious and mystical forces in this world. So if he has any sort of real agency or say in this story, and I've seen people suggest that he's going to end up giving Gandalf the hat because it's a very Gandalfy hat, then he's already sort of broken character because he's not supposed to do things like that.
Yep,
look, there's a reason why Jackson left him out of the story, man.
Yes.
I think it's a mistake. It's stupid. Unless they go with something crazy, like I know there was that debate whether he's really the Witch King or not, and that whole thing, which that could be interesting, but
yeah, they have cast.
It just doesn't belong in this at all.
They cast the Witch King already.
There you go.
Yeah, their whole idea was again, it was a thought. This is all YellowFlash has got to go. I didn't realize that. Let me just finish this up. Their idea is that he's either going to leave it as the J.J. Abrams mystery box, kind of like unexplained, pretty much, which would actually be the first thing that fits, because that would match Tolkien's vision, because he was supposed to be, Tolkien viewed him in 2 of the letters that he wrote as the embodiment of peace in it, like what Platoon was saying, in a time of war. It reminded him of Oxfordshire fading away. And he wanted to keep that perfection that he remembered as a kid. like just this, which I don't know what it looked like when he was a kid, but this time, he's supposed to be like nature, but he's so old that he just doesn't get involved. And Jackson had explained to involve him, either you would require a lot of explanation, which would kill his mystery, and he's so powerful that he tipped the scales. So
well, there's another problem. He's a side mission in a game.
Right.
He doesn't appear again.
Good. Yeah. Good point.
I mean, it was absolutely the right decision to leave him out because he doesn't affect anything. Not to my memory. I've read.
He just helps out Frodo. Frodo. The hobbits when they get by Old Man Willow. I think it is the
He also
tree.
saves them from the Barrow Downs because they all technically die, don't they? The Whites actually kill the hobbits in like the first act of Fellowship of the Ring, and Bombadil revives them. But because it doesn't go anywhere, as Paul is saying, like it's very hard to do. I don't think a single adaptation has ever included Bombadil, even like the BBC radio ones. They've just because he, as Tolkien himself said, he doesn't fit the narrative. So if you're abridging it, which you have to do in any adaptation, he's the natural thing to leave out.
Okay, well,
it just smells desperate to me, man. Like they're just trying to pull anything to get people to watch. And
I would say so. Yeah,
It's not going to work.
No, it's not
At
going
the
to
end of the series, and it's really telling. 37% actually is all that finished that entire show.
Who watched from the premiere? You're right. 63% of their audience disappeared, and and most of them they called bigots.
And the only people left were YouTube reviewers.
Thank you, Flash, for coming. I really appreciate it. I know how difficult it is for you to come on Sundays. I love being on your show on Saturdays. Thank you for being here.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Tell everybody where they can find you.
See you, Flash.
Find me over on YellowFlash and YellowFlash 2. Those are my two channels. And thanks for having me. And we'll see
Thank you, sir. All right. Have a great weekend.
See
you know, I was going to say, George, that what I find really interesting about Rings of Power has also been happening in Star Trek a lot.
Tell me.
Where they've gone back. So, for instance, the writers of Star Trek Discovery went back and changed established things. Like, for instance, in Star Trek, there's something called the Guardian of Forever. It's in the episode City on the Edge of Forever. It's a time portal. As it was originally portrayed on the show, it is an artifact of a long dead civilization. And it's been there, as it says itself, it's been there since before our sun burned hot in the sky.
Is that the computer that?
It's not a computer. They don't really know what it is.
Oh.
And in Discovery, see, it was originally written by Harlan Ellison.
Yeah.
And he was in Harlan's script, the Guardian of Forever could turn into a human being and be ambulatory. Well, when they brought the Guardian of Forever back in Star Trek Discovery, which is supposed to be canonically connected to the original series, Paul Guilfoyle, the actor who played Brass on CSI, is now this jaunty character who is the Guardian of Forever. And wherever he goes, he just makes this portal appear. And I was watching this going, so the writers thought, we're going to do something cheeky. We're going to go back to Harlan Ellison's original script, which was rewritten for a reason. And we're going to use that and turn the Guardian of Forever back into Harlan Ellison's original conception that Gene Roddenberry himself said no. And so these writers are looking for anything that they can not or use to make so they can stand out. So rather than make Tom Bombadil work as a character, they want to use him to show that, oh, look at how clever we are. And so they're not even thinking about, like you guys were saying, what is the reason to bring Tom Bombadil? He's a side quest. He's the reason why he hasn't been in other adaptations. But these guys, these writers today are like, oh, how do we single ourselves out? Whether it works or not, we're going to use Tom Bombadil. And they've done this in modern Star Trek as well. The most recent example is, of course, Sonequa Martin-Green, who's a beautiful woman and a great actress. She's given nothing to play in Discovery, but she actually, when they gave her a boyfriend, they had to hire a black actor. And when she met one of the progenitors of all life in the universe, who we saw once before in Star Trek, like kind of as these pink aliens, they cast a black actor to play the progenitor, who was not played by a black actor in the first iteration of this character. So it's like Sonequa Martin-Green, because she's a black woman, could only have black people in her life. And it's bizarre. It's bizarre. And they do that in the whole, like, you've got Saru, who's this alien hooking up with this Vulcan woman, and they get married. You'd think that in a show that's about the universe where people are having sex with aliens from other planets, that they would move away from that weird segregated racial thing. But Star Trek Discovery leaned into that.
Well, it's because you got it wrong. He wasn't the progenitor. He was just the janitor. That's why he was black.
Well, I mean, it's like the gay character had to become friends with the
Dante's
non-binary
coming after
person. Yeah. But it's like, why was that? Why did they take their LGBTQ characters and kind of sequester them together on Discovery? It was really weird.
It's like, are they trying to showcase them that way or highlight? Is what you say? Okay.
Oh, they were hugging each other constantly, telling each other how great each other was. And
it was just a bizarre, I mean, like in the future, nobody would care. People's sexualities would be incredibly diversified if you were going on to other planets and meeting other, like, hey, one of the benefits of being in the 23rd century and meeting aliens would be to delve into their sexual practices and see what worked for you. I mean, I don't think anybody would care about somebody's sexuality.
Of course not. Kirk got more ass than anybody else of all the
but I mean, there's all different kinds. Even in Aliens, Jim Cameron says, hey, it doesn't matter if it's Octurian, baby. You know, I mean, there's all that. And that's my problem with so much of this stuff. It's a failure of imagination. If you're in a spacefaring situation 1,000 years in the future, human sexuality would be very different than it is now. And they don't explore that. They just take of what we're doing today. And even though it's set 1,000 years in the future, you've got a character, literally, you have a non-binary character telling a gay character to use their preferred pronouns 1,000 years from now.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
it's in Atlas. It's in Netflix's Atlas, where as said, why are you taking us out of this future experience by using present day archetypes?
It's bizarre.
It's suddenly you're no longer thinking you're in the future.
Right.
Well, maybe it's not. Maybe it's an incredibly accurate thing. It's like George Orwell said, if you want a vision of the future, imagine someone lecturing you about their pronouns forever. I mean, we'll never get over it.
Maybe you're right.
I haven't seen it. Obviously, it just came out, Atlas.
Don't worry.
I heard it's god awful.
Okay.
It's terrible.
It's
literally written by a Chat GPT.
Wow. So, I mean, when we come back around, I wanted to share some of the people, since we opened the Rings of Power one with the head of the DEI. Here are some other people who worked on it, because I was just stunned that correct me if I'm wrong, Robert, has a studio ever spent $1 billion between purchasing the rights to a story and filming a television series?
No.
They said it never happened before, but I just wanted to make sure.
No, it's by far the most expensive entertainment endeavor probably in history.
Wow.
And I think followed up by, I mean, Netflix paid $450 million to make 2 more Knives Out films to Rian Johnson.
Right.
This kind of money is astonishing to me.
Would they not then do everything you think? To me, I always thought when it first came out, I'm working on a video. Since it's been 2 weeks, I haven't put one out. It's coming out on Tuesday, which is obviously about Rings of Power and kind of like a brief history on it. And I was going through it, and it's like every interview that I found with Peter Jackson, it's almost like he created a guideline how to best capture the soul of Tolkien's books without to transfer them to the big screen, but so regular audiences could enjoy it and fans could enjoy it, because he obviously can't go, let's go page by page by page.
He failed on The Hobbit.
He did fail on The Hobbit, but remember, I don't know if that was his fault or Guillermo del Toro's, because del Toro was shooting it and then they pulled him. But yes, he did fail on The Hobbit. What I want to know is, it's almost he laid a guideline of how to faithfully adapt Tolkien. And Rings of Power did the exact opposite. It's like they now secured the rights to the Istari, all 5 wizards. And when they got them, the first thing they asked was, can we change them? I'm like, there's not that much in them. They're like, well, can we pull them at a time? Can we do whatever we want? Oh, yeah, okay. Because Simon Tolkien is running the estate. And here come some of the people right in the first 30 seconds who have been in on their meetings. I don't know why.
Okay, really quick, I want to ask a question about this.
Yes.
So by the time the first season ended, right, or the whatever, the ratings were it was pretty low. The audience viewing, I mean, right?
Did not break Nielsen's top 15. I think 1 week it did.
Okay, so is it a situation where they signed a two season deal
5
prior?
seasons. 5 seasons.
How many?
5 seasons they've signed. They bought 5, but they can buy the contract out. But they have a 5-season contract. It's supposed to be how many? It's 40 episodes, 8 hours each season, and they're in pre-production for season 3.
Okay, so but they planned. It's not like, you know, they waited to see how the first season did and then they signed for a second season. They did all this pre-production. Yes. Okay.
They did that, and they're supposedly going. But a lot of the people I've talked to say that they're going to wrap it up in season 3. If the ratings,
they're doing a season 3. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's in pre-production right now because they moved it from New Zealand to the UK, and then they had problems in the UK, but they built everything, so they're continuing to move forward. But they have cut the budget for season 3 in half, by what I'm told. I don't know what that means.
I mean, they spent $250 million just to acquire the rights.
Yeah,
I mean that's astonishing.
I don't think as well you could put a monetary value on the free advertising it got. I mean, imagine if anyone else had come to Amazon and said, please advertise our show on every single package you send out. How much would Amazon have charged for that kind of marketing?
That's a great idea.
And how many times did they put it? I would get packages all the time, and it would be like Rings of Power when the first season was out.
Yeah.
But
you're a genius. That's
I guess I just don't understand filmmaking anymore, because there was a time, or at least production, because there was a time when, hey, the studio knew they were going to spend this amount of money and they were going to make, or projected to make this amount of profit, right? And it's a business like any other business.
Yep.
I don't understand that now. I don't understand production now on that level.
Well,
because now it seems like they don't care about making money. They're just throwing it.
I'm still shocked and still don't understand why they hire people who hate the original
source material.
So if you take The Witcher, for example, there's interviews with writers and the woman who brought the property to Netflix, where she says, well, we don't like the writer and we don't like any of the books. And then they actually went ahead and arrogantly did their own version called Blood Origin, where the head writer, the showrunner, proclaimed proudly that this is the way the Witcher should have been. We are fixing the Witcher. This is what the Witcher should have been. And it was originally 8 episodes. They edited it down to the least worst, horrible 6 episodes, and then it was gone. And it was wretched. But what arrogance. What absolute... I don't know any other word to describe it.
Well, it's like I said, man, activists don't create.
Well, they tried.
Well,
I'll tell you something that happened with the project that I'm currently working on. I'm doing a 10-part audio drama that's set in 1932. And one of my collaborators, who subsequently has left the project, wanted us to have more people of color, more women, and more diversity. Now, keep in mind, this is based on an award-winning book, and it's basically a sequel to The Untouchables. Elliot Ness is a character, Al Capone is a character, and everything that happens, for the most part, is it's a true story with a fictional main character. And it deals with the assassination of Chicago Mayor Anton Cermak, and that all happened. When I was having this conversation with this person, I understood where they were coming from, but I'm like, but this isn't how it was. And the author painstakingly did his research. And this person said, but can't we retcon the past? Like, what does it matter? We can just stick some more people in there, stick more people of color, stick more women. And I'm like, what about a female DA? And I'm like, but the court case that's in this project is well documented. It's not our place to go back and rewrite what happened. And of course, for creating fiction, the answer is, well, you can rewrite anything. And I'm like, yeah, but the whole point is to make this true to what happened in 1932. And we just reached an impasse. And I said, I have to protect the writer's integrity here, who also adapted his own novel. And it was just an interesting question. I mean, I would have thought that, of course, you want to keep it as historically accurate as possible. That was the whole reason. The title of the show is called True noir. So it's the truthful telling, but we've got a fictional detective. And it was such an odd conversation to have, because no, you can't. I'm not going to go back and ask the writer to insert things that weren't there.
Were
Why
they
would you
being
do that?
authentic? Were they being authentic, Robert? Or like they believe this, or they thought it was more like how they would be impacted if they were in something that wasn't seen that way? You see what I'm saying?
I think there was part of it. I think that was definitely part of it. But on the other hand, you know, if you're telling, it's odd that our impulse now, and people that work in the industry, their impulse is to change things in order to what you're fighting perceived or real injustice from the past. Like, why, if you're going to tell a story that was set in the 1800s, like, I understand that Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn have problematic language, but to go back and change, that's how people talked back then. And to change it, if you're trying to stay accurate to the way it was written, you're doing a disservice to history, the original writer, and to the audiences of today are smart enough to understand that these are the way things were. You can't go back and retcon the past to make it more palatable. Human beings are awful. And what I mean, that was the whole point. It's how we've grown. When you choose to show a historical tale, you're supposed to have, I think, the audience understand, like, isn't it better the way we are now? That's why you tell those kinds of stories. That's why history endures.
But the opposite is true too, where shows like Bridgerton is telling the kids that, wow, what a racially progressive England it was back then.
Right.
And no, it wasn't.
Right.
There were problems. I mean, not that there were a lot of multiple races, but I mean, Platoon can correct me on this, but and not that it was overtly racist, but it was classist. And
sure,
you end up teaching the people inadvertently wrong history.
Yeah. Anne Boleyn is black now.
Yes, I understand that. The same woman from Acolyte.
I mean, a lot of writings were problematic, quote unquote, from back then. H.P. Lovecraft was incredibly racist.
He was.
Right? I mean, but do I want them to change his words? No, absolutely not, because that's what he wrote. And if you're going to adapt it, then use that material, man. And again, to show the progression of where we are now and to where he was.
Well, I mean, I think in many ways, the biggest problem is literacy, because if you read Huckleberry, if you read Tom Sawyer, it's very much written as a kid's book. The language is different. And then when I started reading, and I hadn't read it for a long time, but I started reading Huckleberry Finn as the sequel to Tom Sawyer to my young son, I went, oh my God, this is like the language, the writing.
Yeah, but it's a different time period. You're right.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the quality of the words.
The quality,
the writing.
of course.
I'm saying that I don't think a lot of kids would even want to dive into it. It's so rich and it's written on a much higher grade level, especially. Pardon me?
It's beautiful. No, you're right. I mean, compare that to the Rings of Power, to their writers.
Oh my God.
Everything sounds like they're trying to sound Shakespearean, but it comes across like a bad ad for a shampoo commercial. It's
like, for instance, when I read the Da
Vinci, is always right.
When I read the Da Vinci Code by Brown, I went, this is horrific. I had to wash because it was written at such a juvenile level compared to Huckleberry Finn. I recommend everyone reading Huckleberry Finn, not just for the story, but Steinbeck could write like that. I'm going, I know exactly the same word Steinbeck knows. How is he stringing them together and creating such poetry? Because, well, he's smarter than me.
Because back then, not only did we read, but we learned, man. Like when we found words we didn't understand, we looked them up in a dictionary, and it made us smarter for having known that, right? For having done the work. That doesn't exist anymore. People don't want to work. They want an easy read. They want to be fed
instant answers. And talk about changing history. I'm sharing this. I don't know how many know. Goodfellas has been changed. It now has this warning. This film includes language and or cultural stereotypes that are inconsistent with today's standards of inclusion and tolerance, and may offend some viewers. AMC's changed it, and they're now going to change it for all the copies.
But they do this, and yet they still release it because they know it will make them money. So they evidently don't care. It happens all the time. Like there's a few people. There's a guy used to do some very funny stuff on YouTube who then decided that he was going to become very much up on modern faddish social justice stuff. Every single video now has in the description some little disclaimer saying this no longer represents who I am. It's got abhorrent views on jokes about gay people and trans. It's like, but you okay? Then take them down. But you don't because they still get loads of views, and you don't mind taking the money for your horribly offensive stereotypes.
Warning, this video contains nudity and offensive material. Okay, when can I start this?
You just make it sound more.
I guess for me, I miss filmmaking, man. I miss the balls of the 70s, man. I'm not even talking about blaxploitation. I mean, just
movies.
Man, I just miss filmmakers, man. I miss filmmakers, like guys who just, guys who will chase their actors around with an axe to get the right scene, and
Panic and needle.
What happened to that, man? This is so corporatized and so sanitized, and it's not, and that's why we're seeing what we're seeing now. That's why people are not watching these things anymore. Look, Furiosa was a good movie. I stand by that. I liked it from beginning to end. It's George Miller. It's a good film. But now good movies are starting to suffer because of how bad all the other movies are. People are like, well, all these other movies are bad. Well, why should I take a gamble on this? Right? So they're not going, even though they're good movies. There are some good movies that are out there.
Oh, it was just released digitally, even though I've saw it 3 times in the theater. Godzilla -1.
Oh, God. My favorite of last year.
It is. Godzilla -1. I also enjoyed The Holdovers. I'm trying to think what else did I enjoy from last year.
But the black the writer of the book
American Fiction.
I loved American Fiction.
Yeah. Well, what you're saying is what has happened is the filmmakers who wanted to make certain movies, wanted to tell certain stories. It was the filmmakers and the stories that the studios at that time would greenlight. They were betting on visionary people to make these films. Now it's totally inverted, where the studios themselves, the corporate owned studios, are deciding what movies to make, and then they have to go find filmmakers to make them. That's why you now have like Mahershala Ali is going to be in the new Jurassic World movie. It doesn't make any sense to me that the studios aren't looking for passionate filmmakers who have great stories to tell, because that's how they make money. Hollywood never got rich following a trend. Hollywood got rich setting trends.
But there's a reason for that, Robert, and that is because there's no longer 5 studios each releasing 24-ish movies per year. So when I was head of TV comedy, I had to greenlight X amount of stuff.
Good or bad?
Good or bad.
Okay.
Because you played the numbers.
Yeah.
And the movie studios played the numbers. They did to their best ability to try to hire the best producers, the best writers, cast the most prestigious actor for the right amount of money. There was all these different metrics and things pulling. I can only get one really good actor and one crappy actor. CAA will force me to get these 2 good actors, but they're going to force me to put in this really lousy director that they represent, or they won't get these really 2 good actors. I mean, the factors that were and still continue to be out there, it was different. So you did your best every year. Let's say, I'm just giving an example, you had to greenlight 10 things. You had no choice. And then one year you'd have no hits, and another year you'd be successful. Or one year you'd get two movies that would actually make up for all the 8 movies that lost you money. So that's what's changed. You cannot work any other way. You cannot guess what is going to be successful. This is what's happening now, is that, yes, the executives, as Robert have said, they're now, they've screwed things down, and they've decided that they're going to be the arbiters of what's going to work or not. And they cannot fight odds. They have to go with the old system. Make 10, 2 will be successful. There you go.
I appreciate
On a good year, 3 will be successful. Hallelujah.
Well, I didn't know it worked that way. I thought they went to look for the 10 best properties, but you're saying 10.
Well, they did.
Right.
No. They always did, but it would also allow them, and I know this for a fact, they would always throw in one ringer.
Okay.
Like the movie that they're gonna go, I have no idea, but this is from this new director, these very, but I can afford it, and I'm only gonna do it for $2 million because I'm already doing 20 movies.
Gotcha.
It doesn't matter. And maybe this one is going to, triple the box office. There's no room for that. That's also part of the problem. It's not even a question of taking risk. It's a question of almost everybody, all the good producers, the good actors, the good writers have all been already assigned to all the different studios or even my studio. But I'm going to take a risk on this one because I got to get 20 properties. So there you go.
That makes sense. That makes sense. It's like the Kathleen Kennedy article. She was saying in order for a studio now to make a series or a film project in the global stage, it must be representative of the entire globe. And I thought about that. Are they trying? So they're trying to make a movie for everyone.
Right.
But you usually, when you try to make everyone happy, you usually end up pissing everyone off.
Well, you make it for no one.
Yeah. It just, but I understand you got to go, and we're wrapping up now. Thank you, Paul, for coming. Please tell everyone they can find you and help him on Twitter. Get him out of the gulag. Paul Chato is in the Twitter gulag because he had the balls to be himself, say what was on his mind, told somebody what to do.
No, it was a very cheap, incredibly cheap retort to someone who was hassling me to death in a much, much worse language. So my response was to go childish.
I thought it was funny.
I thought it was funny too, but sometimes the best way to do is go low.
Go low. You won't.
That's what I did. And they were offended by it, but that
I
doesn't
thought
matter.
X was the free speech platform.
Apparently
What
not
happened?
anymore. So listen, thank you very much. You can find me on YouTube on Appalling News or call me Chato, and I will be doing new stuff. And I will be talking about Hadrian's Wall on Monday. So stay tuned for that. Thank you very much, all. You are my favorite people, and I appreciate the time I have with you.
Thank you, Paul. Have a great
Good to see you,
weekend.
Paul.
Great to see you. Right now, we're going to wrap up before we get into super chats. Did anyone happen to hear that Time Bandits is being reshot?
I heard.
They decided to reshoot it?
Reshoot it. They're redoing it. Sorry. They're redoing it.
Oh.
They're making another Time Bandits, but they're just swapping out the...
Actually, I have one question. Are they using real midgets? I'm sorry, little people?
No.
Little people.
No, they decided to go a different way.
Oh, then I'm out.
Yeah, they're
I'm
using a girl. They're changing...
Why are they taking work away from little people? What's up with that, man?
Disney did the same thing with Snow White and Rachel
Yes.
Zegler and all the backlash. That's because you had, what's his name? I always forget that. Peter Dinklage.
Yeah.
He
Who gets a really, 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 really well remunerated role by playing a dwarf and then pulls up the little ladder behind him.
He's like, you bastards, it's for me, not you. I clogged up this stool.
So what you're saying is he cock blocked them from getting work.
Absolutely. 100%. Fletcher,
That bastard.
He is. I was going to play this last thing from Prime for 10 seconds, and then we'll read super chats. Here it is. I've been waiting so y'all can see the other group from Prime.
Creating an environment where everybody can bring their whole self to work is absolutely critical to be successful as a business.
When I'm at work, I feel 100% comfortable being myself. I love that I'm appreciated because of my background and my identity.
I lead an organization called XCM, which stands for Cross-Channel, Cross-Category Marketing. We're creating these messages and this content that represents Amazon. We want to make sure that that work is...
Okay, you got the picture. It's just more of, growing up, I never heard this identity thing. I think that's why I keep I'm still stunned by it. I was just like, hey, John, James, Carol, Meryl, Missy, George. Not like, hey, this is who I am. But
I keep going back to John Hamm's clip from Mad Men. She's like, I want to be acknowledged. I want to be.
Yeah.
He looks at her and goes, that's what the money is for.
I love it. Yeah.
That is true. Fletcher, let's bring up those super chats so we can wrap up. We have Steel Leg of History for $2. Hopefully, YouTube will let me hit 354 subs. All of y'all, go out if you can and help Steel Leg of History. He put some great gaming content together. See if we can't give him up to 400 subscribers or 5. Hannibal Grin for $5. Behold, fancy paper. I know. Thank you, Hannibal. Olaf for €6. The audience is a paper tiger created by marketing departments. Yeah, probably it's all the Twitter bots that do not watch their shows, movies, or buy any merch. You're right, Olaf. But you know what's really funny, and it's great to see you again, is I was watching an interview with George Lucas. I don't remember where it was from. I'm sure one of y'all will know. But he was describing how today, modern Hollywood, the way it's been taken over by the corporations, they do the film screenings. He's like, I would never do anything like that. I would never put together groups and then poll them. What did you think of this part of it? And what did you think of this? And what he goes, it's my movie. A director makes a movie. They have their vision. They make the film, and then they put it out. You don't go to find out what people think of it so you can go back and rewrite and reshoot it. He thought that was one of the things that's killed Hollywood stories, Hollywood films. What do you think, Robert?
Well, I think that there's two things going on there, in that I think sometimes, everybody expects when you're on set that you're going to capture lightning in a bottle every single day, principal photography. That isn't true. And so to have pickups or reshoots able to be done on films, I think is essential, especially on large budget movies. And I think when you play a film for an audience, you have to presuppose that the audience will like it, because if they don't like it, why are you making it in the first place? You want to tell a good story that works for an audience, but you don't change your content. If you're changing your content to appeal to some aspect of your audience beyond just telling a great story well told, as Stephen King would say, that's strange to me. Like, I understand if you're making a kids movie, you want it to appeal to children, but I think the best children's films have a universal appeal. To great stories are great stories, and I think that one of the problems that our civilization has is we've infantilized children's entertainment from the get. Star Wars was not a movie for children. Star Wars was a movie for everybody that appealed to children. And then George Lucas, somewhere along the way, decided he was making kids movies, but that's not what he said when he first made Star Wars in 1977.
No, that's what he was saying. He was saying that he would that a director makes the movie that he has the vision for, and you don't change it for the audience.
But I think a good director and a good screenwriter, like any other storyteller, understands that an audience for your story is the point.
Correct.
And that's what you want to have happen. And I think that nowadays, story is taking a back seat to elements people believe that they need to have for whatever reason to make themselves feel better. I mean, I don't understand why anybody would compromise a story with certain elements designed to appeal to whom. I don't understand that. A great story, the appeal of a great story is the story itself, not the elements of the story.
Especially important for children. It's one of the most infuriating things to be told. If you're saying, I've done videos on, say, Peter Pan, Little Mermaid, which have been great excuses, because that means you can go back and you can read the originals and you can read the original fairy tales in the case of The Little Mermaid. And people will say, wow, why are you criticizing it so much? It's just for kids. So are you telling me really that that's not the most important demographic to give good stories to, children? They deserve better stories than anybody else, because they will then grow up with the lessons they've learned and have standards that have been formed by the media they've consumed. If anything, you should be more critical of children's media than anything else.
What's funny about that for me is, growing, my favorite story of all time, the thing that made me want to be a writer was Alice in Wonderland, right? That story has always had a special place in my heart, right? And that story made me want to become a writer, right? So that's how important it is to give kids good stories, right? Because that inspired me to want to do it.
Yeah, and I think kids have always recognized, when I was a child, my favorite things in the world were the Twilight Zone and original Star Trek.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
and I mean, I started watching, I remember seeing the first Twilight Zone I ever saw was an episode called To Serve Man, written by Jerome Bixby, who also wrote Mirror, Mirror for Star Trek. And it ended on a very dour note, but I was so immersed in that 22, you're talking 25 minutes, 22 minutes of storytelling. And as soon as I saw that story knocked me for a loop as a kid, and I was immediately absorbed by the Twilight Zone. And those stories in 25 minutes they're a master class. The best of them are a master class on how to set up a premise and characters, and then pay it off, take it through to its nth degree, to the end of that tale. And I was 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. I was obsessed with the Twilight Zone.
I love the 2 Burgess Meredith ones. There were 2, weren't there? I think there were 2. The one with the glasses where he was going to read.
Time Enough at Last, and then there's the Obsolete Man. I think there's 4.
Oh, I didn't know. Oh, I'm gonna have to look at that.
The first episode I ever saw, and it shook me to my core. And I don't know why, because it wasn't like super, like, you know, super weird, but it was the pool episode, the Pool Hustler.
Oh yeah,
who just and I can't remember all of it because I was so young, but I just remember watching that, thinking, "What am I watching right now?" And just blew my mind though that kind of story could be told on TV.
Yeah, Burgess Meredith is in 4.
Talking about pool, I remember. I think it's called The Color of Money. Was one of my favorite movies. Paul Newman.
Paul Newman.
God, I love that.
And that's a sequel to The Hustler from the 60s.
And that's a sequel to The Hustler. It's beautiful. Watch them back to back. Valiant Renegade for $5. Great find, George. I may use that on the show today. He's talking about the head of the Amazon Prime's DEI video. Absolutely. I'll send you the link for it. Tender Warrior 68 gifted 20. I didn't see this. I would have shouted you out sooner. Thank you, Tender Warrior. He gifted 28 Georgia Giant Slayer memberships, and I think everybody picked them up. Next Saturday, 2 p.m., we're going to be having a membership stream. Alpha and Omega for $5. Our taxes, 401k, and pension fund pay for it because DEI and ESG are mandatory via the UN SDG initiative. I don't know the UN SDG initiative. We're paying to be propaganda.
Development goals, I think.
Okay. Didn't earn it policies drive me crazy. Thank you, Alpha and Omega. G2 Bryce for $5. Verbal Riot, another awesome Lord of the Rings and Hobbit production, is the NPR 1979 radio show. They aren't perfectly accurate to the books, but they are fun. They are fun. It's been a while.
Good to know.
AJ Hawk's Toxic Finger for $5. Tom, bummer deal. Oh, yeah. Thank you, AJ Hawk. Emilio for $5. I think Amazon included Tom Bombadil in season 2 because the writers heard he hated whites. That's a good one.
That's pretty
the
good.
Barrow whites because he saved them from the bear. G2 Bryce for $5. The Little Platoon is wrong. I don't think so, but Tom Bombadil appears in the 1979 NPR radio show.
Oh, I stand corrected.
I will check it out. I remember that one. It was brilliant. But there was a reason Bakshi and Jackson did not want to include. Eric K for $2. Mexican Iron Man, professional tuber. He's not here, but I will pass to him on, Eric K. Hannibal Grin for $5. Did you hear? Homeboy effed an Octurian. Look at him go.
Doesn't matter whether it's Octurian, baby.
It doesn't. Man of War 665, Neighbor of the Beast, member for 4 months. How you doing, my brother? Pension Asset Study estimates global assets across 22 major pension markets at $55.7 trillion. With this slush fund proliferating much of this, think trivialities such as quality or profit matter. Yeah, but they're losing. They're losing it. It cannot be sustained forever, no matter how much money they have, because it's happening all across the board. Billy D. Shilliams for $2. Acolyte is $750,000 a minute per disparu.
Per minute. Wow.
Yeah, because it's $180 million production.
No, you're right. You're right. And maybe I misread it. So it's probably per minute, not per episode. So
did you think of that? $750,000 per minute.
That's insane. Again, how do you anyway?
And I think Godzilla Minus One costs, I've heard 15 million or less than 12 million. So I don't know which one's correct. Wow.
That's wild. Yeah, I misspoke. It was per minute.
Yeah, not a problem.
That's insane.
Could you imagine having 750,000 per minute?
I just don't know how any company can do it. That's wild, man.
I mean, that's just astonishing to me. And I think the real problem there is, other than subscriptions, there's no money coming back. And that's been the real problem with streaming, is that when you put a movie that's made, or a TV series that's made directly for a streamer, there is no remuneration. It's only subscribers. That's the only money that's coming into Netflix. And I think for the studios, they wanted streaming because it was, okay, we now have a revenue stream that is every month we can say, okay, we have 100 million subscribers and here's how much money we're going to make. So there was a stability there in terms of monetary remuneration coming in from subscribers. But if you're putting material on a streaming service that's never had any other revenue stream, that money just disappears. And so it becomes very difficult to make a streaming service profitable. And they realize, like, oh, you mean when movies are more popular at the movie theater, they do better on streaming, which they've proven? Well, yeah, and they also make you your money back. So by the time a big movie gets onto a streamer that's been in a theater and it's already earned out and it's already profitable, when you put it on a streaming service, it makes it more valuable for the streamer, for the audience, and you're not losing money. With Rings of Power, it's just a big sinkhole of there's no return.
I do have one question about Rings of Power that I've always wanted to ask all of y'all. They have 22 producers for that show. Same from season 1 to season 2. Why does a series that makes 8 episodes a season need 22 producers? I'm just wondering.
To be honest with you, it doesn't.
Okay.
And a lot of people get producing credits because of whatever they might have played a role. Look, if you secured somebody, sometimes people get producing credits for securing their best friends with a huge star. And they were able to get that star to read this, get the material to them, and they get a producing credit because they got the big star.
Yeah, apparently it's pretty easy to get a producer credit these days.
What you want is, like, for television, what you want are executive producer credits. And with movies, you want single card producer credits.
Okay.
And that's how you can define the difference between, and you know, that's not to say that great producers they're invaluable. But with movies nowadays, the way they get made, so many people are involved in terms of money. You know, you might have 10 different entities putting in money to one film, and each one of those entities get a producing credit or 2.
I mean, say what you want to about Harvey Weinstein, man. The guy was a hell of a producer.
He was a hell of a producer. Yeah, I mean, and unfortunately, he got into the business and liked it because, you know, he was probably a nerdy kid who never could get a date. And
then he had control of a kingdom, and he's like, hey, I got a couch.
Power corrupts.
Yeah.
Power corrupts.
Nini for 6. I don't know what currency that is. 6 shekels? 6 something. Keep it real. We will. Thank you so much, Nini. Razorburn member for 2 months. George, forgive off topic. Fave Front 242 album. Oh, I have to think about that. I will get back to you. Favorite Front 242. I love them all. Poopa Chalupa member for a month. They added inches to De Niro's platform shoes. Yeah, De Niro got slapped down this week by, I think it's the National Association of Broadcasters. They stripped his award they were going to give him next week because he threw a little temper tantrum outside of New York. Thank you, Poopa Chalupa. Erica Raff became a YouTube member. Thank you. Can't wait to see you at the next membership stream next Saturday. Is that it?
Yeah, De Niro's the classic case of you either die a hero, man.
Oh, or you become a villain.
You either die a hero.
Wow. And I saw Man of War. I saw what you were saying. It's 57 trillion. I know the 57 trillion and compared to the money that they're losing in billions. What I was meaning to say that I don't think that this will continue to last forever is because so many people are waking up and are pulling out, like audiences, that they're not floating the bill. Furiosa, I haven't seen it.
It's a good movie, man.
I've heard it's a good movie, and audiences didn't go. I mean, it's been happening to. When was it? When I was on Drinker a few weeks ago, he was wondering why no one showed up for Fall Guy. He goes, it was a kind of like a fun popcorn movie. And I was like, maybe it's because of the fact that audiences have lost trust in Hollywood. Platoon, did you see that, Fall Guy?
No, I've not got around to seeing that yet. Same thing with Furiosa, actually, though that's on my list. But yeah, I think there's probably a bit of fatigue with general sort of movie stuff. Also, I don't know like how much of a pull either of those movies really has. I think even Mad Max Fury Road technically lost money when all things were considered, and that's quite popular. So it's got a small, very loyal, dedicated audience, but not sort of that mass appeal. And, you know, at times are tough and movie tickets are expensive. And if it's going to turn up on streaming in a month's time anyway, why would you spend even more money when you could just wait and you've already got Disney Plus or wherever it's coming to?
Yeah, it's not like it used to be where you had to wait, was it 6 months for it to come out on Blu-ray or come out a year for cable? I mean, you get it now. Well, thank you all, gentlemen, for coming. Would you let everybody know where they could find you? Little Platoon?
Yeah, sure. Little Platoon is the main channel. Lost Chord is the second one. I think my Twitter is @PlatoonPod. Next up is it's either Doctor Who or the Acolyte. I have a feeling the Acolyte will come first. There's a few things in production at the moment.
Wonderful. Verbal, thank you for
Yeah,
showing up. I'd love you to come back again.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, you guys can find me Verbal Riot on YouTube, Rumble, also X. And I always, give the warning. I'm not for the thin skinned. So if you're easily offended, I'm definitely not the one to follow. But hey, if you have a thick skin and you're passionate, man, about film and fandom, then yeah, go ahead and follow me.
And we have birthday boy Robert Meyer Burnett.
Yes, you can find me on my YouTube channel, The Burnett Work. Find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, and keep on the lookout for our upcoming fully immersive 1930s set audio drama True Noir, The Assassination of Anton Cermak, based on Road to Perdition writer Max Allan Collins' 19 novel series.
It's awesome. I cannot wait till it comes out and we push it to everyone. It's going to be.
Oh, when you hear who's in the cast, even I was like, huh, wow.
It's going to be phenomenal. I know. I can't wait. I'm excited.
We recorded, I can't tell you who the actor is, but we recorded our Al Capone last weekend. And our Al Capone was very good.
I can see you. I can see the smile on your face. I can't wait for you.
It's very good.
Thank you, chat. You've been amazing. Please thank our mods. You got Eric K, the king of mods, Lord Thoth. We got our producer, Fletcher Williams. And I got to say again, I am getting back to all your emails and messages. Thank you for all those blessings and well wishes. They meant a lot. After 2 weeks of not putting down a video, this Tuesday morning, my Rings of Power video is coming out. It's kind of going to give a brief history of what they want to do and where we are with season 2. So I hope you enjoy it. Today, there's not going to be an after show. We're going to do that next Sunday just because I can't sit as long. But we'll do the after show next Sunday, and next Saturday is the membership stream. Till then, remember, if you want to win every battle and stay true to yourself, all you have to do is know that we never bow down, we never bend the knee. Always forward.